Welcome to the 60th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we are bringing you the summer 2018 season 7th and 8th weeks of episodes. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we will be spoiling everything. My name is Leo, and my one true waifu is Falketa, a cross between Falco from Star Fox and Toadetta from Mario. Also with me are Bcom and Kat, and I can't even escape Bowsetta in our own podcast.
I love how you're calling her Bowsetta. I think most people call her Bowsetta. Like
Bowsetta. Whatever. I don't know. I can't.
Bowsetta is like very Italian of you.
My Twitter feed is nothing but pictures of her. It's insane.
All right, let's get serious for a second. It shouldn't be Bowsette. It shouldn't be Peachzer. It should be Beach. It's Bowser and Peach, so it's Beach.
That's actually
Obviously.
a really good name.
People need to get behind this.
I like that name. That's a good name.
Also, they're all just like, so all these Fate Stay Night fan artists are like having a ball right now because they realize they could just like make Saber or Mordred just look like Princess Peach and then just like draw a shell on her, and it's just like blowing up for them. So I'm just starting to call Bowsette like Bowdred for like Mordred and Bowser, or like Baber because it's just like Bowser and Saber half the time. So those also apply. So Beach, Bowdred, Baber, I accept all of these. All of the above apply. But not Bowsette. That's just too boring. That's old and dusted now. We need to move past Bowsette.
Okay, if you say so. This
We're in a new
meme is
post-Bowsette
only
world.
like 2 days old.
No, memes travel fast, all right? Like, look, we have to move past these old and dusted memes from 2 days ago.
I said, this meme came in like a wrecking ball, and I'm just waiting for somebody to draw her on a wrecking ball like Taylor Swift. I want to see that.
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. I hate them both. Doesn't matter.
Miley Cyrus represents America, Leo. How do you hate America?
So, first show is on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah,
we got
I'm
a
ready.
new show.
Oh yeah, we got a new show that we're coming back to. It's Angolmois.
Angolmois.
I think.
Mwah. Just
Mwah.
remember,
Kiss,
it's
like, you gotta
French.
kiss it, like
Angolmois.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I wrote like a short synopsis of what happened between our first impressions and episode 7. So remember, this is a show about like the Mongols invading Japan, and like they start with Tsushima Island, which is like to the west of Japan, but like in between Korea and Japan. And it's like a stepping stone. So basically there's been like a couple of small skirmishes between the Mongols and like the defenders of the island, and Kuchii Jinzaburo, who's like the one of the outcast group, has like taken over. Basically he's like taken the lead because he's just like an extremely strong soldier and strategist. But like they're still getting pushed back because the Mongols just have like overwhelming numbers. And meanwhile, the princess Teruhi is just finding every chance she can to like steal kisses from him while he's asleep. And that's her entire character now.
It's kind of creepy and sad.
Creepy as fuck.
It's not cool.
I mean, I appreciate her devotion.
I mean, like, but if it was the opposite, right? Like, if there was some dude, like, and the girl wakes up and, like, her face is, like, right next to his face, like, that would be creepy and rapey. So, like, I'm gonna call this creepy and rapey, because that's what it is.
No, you're right. You are right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, Kat, if it happened in high school, though, you could still become the Supreme Court justice.
Oh!
Or college, sorry. If it happened in college, that was a million years ago. So it's not as creepy and rapey, say the Republicans. Anyway, moving on. Episode 7.
Right. Yeah,
Leo.
Kanata Noki. It starts off with like a quick memory of the emperor as like a child, and he gives Kuchii's. How are we gonna say his name? Is it Kuchii's? That sounds weird.
I mean, it's Kuchii, yeah. I mean, it is. It's his name. Yeah.
So he gives a wakizashi to Kuchii's father, which is the short sword that samurais used.
I'm a little confused by this because is it Kuchii's father or is it Kuchii's grandfather? Because if the emperor was a child, the emperor is now super fucking old, and like we saw Kuchii's father before he died, and like he wasn't that fucking old.
I mean, it's just important that it was handed down through the family. So
I know, it bugged me when I saw this because I was confused.
Yeah.
I think it was Kuchii's grandfather. That's what I'm going to say.
I didn't even realize it was a relative. I thought it was just like some famous samurai who the emperor had given the sword before, who was like an Eastern warrior. I didn't realize there was like a familial connection at all. I was just marveling at the fact that the emperor is the same size, whether he's like 8 years old or 100 years
I know,
old.
right? He's like
keep
a
bringing
tiny...
up Kuchii's father, so that's, I mean, I just immediately assumed that's who it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that...
I might not have paid attention to that.
I thought that too, and then I was like, is Kuchii's father like somehow immortal? Like, did he live like without aging? And I got confused, and then so that's why I wanted to clarify, because I thought
it's kind of interesting because the emperor like recognizes it, and he's just kind of like, "Ooh, that's cool." But then it turns out that Teruhi is the great granddaughter of the emperor, and she's given a letter so that she can give it to the Toibare people and get help from them, which is those people in the mask from earlier episodes. They go to the Asobi.
Yeah, like, so I couldn't stop hearing this as like a contraction of Asobi Asobase. Like, they kept saying Asobe, and I was like, oh, it's Asobi Asobase. I just kept hearing it every time. Anyway,
But it's a bay called Aso, and that's where they live, and they come across some like lovely ladies freeing from the Mongols in small boats. But
so lovely.
oh yes, but they don't need Kuchii's help because they're badasses, and they were just a decoy to lure the Mongols into range of their archers. The topless ladies dive overboard, and the archers wreck the Mongols, and the ones that try to swim away get fucking stabbed by the lady divers. So it's
They
just
have
like
knives
Jesus.
underwater. They're pretty deadly.
Interesting, this group of Mongols seems to be yet again a different race that uses poison arrows and are called the Jukin.
Yeah, I mean, the Mongols did so much like conquering that they were constantly absorbing like different vassals into their own forces.
The show's doing a really good job of being like, the Mongols were just like so many different groups of people that it's so factioned, I guess. So Hangen is the leader of the Toibare.
Toibare.
There we go. So he's the leader, and he takes them to their castle, and it has like this wall that surrounds the whole mountain. There's a little game that's played on this wall, and Bcom really enjoyed it. So how about you tell us about it?
Well, so like, I was laughing because they're kids, right? There's like this girl and this little kid from our faction that we've been with all along. And so this girl is from like the new Toibare village or castle, and like she's like, we're gonna race each other around this castle wall, and like whoever sees each other or sees the other one first wins. And like immediately I'm like, that's not a game that works. And the guy's just like, okay, let's do it. And then like, I thought the girl was just doing this all along because she likes him, and like wanted to get his attention. But like, it kind of seemed like she also like realized the same time that it was a dumb game because they would both see each other at the same time.
That was just her nerves getting to her.
I guess that's true.
But the place also seems to be well stocked in armor and weapons. It also has catapults that can launch some large rocks. The adults can clearly see that Sana, that's the little girl, has a crush on Amushi, and Kano jokingly says, is there some rumor that if you take a lap around the walls with the one you like, you'll become a couple? And then you see Teruhi like blush.
Yeah, it was cute.
Because we know she gets secret rapey kisses at night when he's sleeping.
Rapey kiss.
So Kuchii says he might take a lap around the walls later, and that's when she blushes, and she's obviously will take a lap with him now. Kuchii, after taking a lap, figures out, I'm not going to get used to saying his name. After taking a lap, figures out that the castle walls aren't as good as they seem. The walls are too large for the Toibare people to defend, and there's just not enough of them, so it would be easily wiped out if like a large force attacked them. One of the like lady divers, she's pretty close to him, to the leader. She gets like pissed about it. Like all of them do. They hold him at like knife point. They're like, you can't shit talk us, but he's like saying facts. Then at the end, Shirashi meets up with a buddy, and he has like a silver badge that supposedly will get them off the island somehow. That gets explained in the second episode, but that's it for episode 7.
Okay,
guys.
Well, I thought it was really funny when Kuchii's grandfather or whatever is like jumping up and down in the air. Like, he jumps so fucking high. He looks like a grasshopper, and there's no way that a human being would ever jump that high. in reality.
It was episode 1 or 2. The one dude jumped from a beach to a ship.
I mean,
Well,
but like
true. Yeah.
he
We
was
haven't
so
seen that guy
fucking
again.
high in the
Yeah.
air. Like,
I wonder where that guy is.
he was really high. I don't know.
He's
There
one
is
of
a lot
the-
of exaggerated jumping in this show, I will say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Episode 8.
Okay. So, episode 8, at the beginning of the episode, it kind of like repeats the scene at the end of episode 7, where it's like, first of all, Shiraishi and Obusama are talking by the river, and he like holds up the weird silvery gold medallion thing, and it's a Mongol medallion. And so Shiraishi has had an offer to sell out the others to the Mongols. So like he's become a spy, basically. And he makes a good argument at first, like, well, okay, wait. Obusama is the one who was offered this, but Obusama is trying to convince Shiraishi to join him. So Obusama makes a good argument at first to Shiraishi on why they are justified in selling the rest of the others out. And he's like, hey, you know, we're prisoners. Like, we're not getting anything from this deal. Like, we're just not going to die. It's not really fair. We should revolt. Shiraishi kind of thinks it over for a while. He does make some good points. So then it flashes back to the same scene at the end of episode 7, where Kuchii is talking to the magistrate about how like the castle is too big to defend, and you know they're vulnerable to attack, and all those bitches surround Kuchii. And one of the guys, you missed this, Leo, was like, "This is the most female attention that you'll ever have again in your life." And I was like, I mean,
like that line.
He's not wrong, because like, how many bitches are like staring intently at him at that moment? Wasn't it like
5 or 6?
Yeah, it was a lot at
I
once.
like the guy who says that, like the character who says that. I just like him in general. He's the guy with like the big shark teeth, and he's just a huge guy in general. And he just like throws huge boulders at people and like uses a huge
King
club
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fun dude. He's simple.
Oni Takamaru.
He's simple but fun. Like you know what he's about, you know? You don't have to think too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and so they get pissed at him, then they kind of let it go, and they agree to compromise. They're like, we're gonna work together to strengthen the walls of this castle. Then it flashes to the Mongol army deciding, like, and this, once again, I just don't like the way they flash in between scenes. I wish they would stick with one scene till the end of the scene and then move to the next one instead of like going between them. I don't know. So they go to the Mongol army, and the Mongol army almost decides to call off the whole attack because it's too much trouble. But then Nergui, which is one of the generals, there's like 4 of them at this meeting, says like, oh, I've recruited all of these spies, and like we can win, like with these spies' help all around the island. And I'm like, shut up! Like this whole thing could have been avoided. Although I guess then we wouldn't have the rest of the show. It would be a really boring rest of the show. So after that scene, it flashes back to the river with Shiraishi and Obusama, where they, like, Shiraishi was just thinking it over. And he doesn't take Obusama up on the offer because he says he doesn't want to lose his soul. And at this point, Obusama kind of shows like what an asshole of a human being he really is, because like you kind of learn he like almost raped some girl, and like that's why he got attacked and like made into a prisoner in the first place. And you kind of learn that he's a jerk. And then I don't know, you learn a lot about Shiraishi as a character in terms of his morality. Like he will work with the Mongols and be a traitor, but he won't work with someone who is like trash, like Obusama, who has no morals at all. So he's like flexible, but he has like lines, which is interesting. So basically he kills Obusama, and then he's like, well, but I'm gonna still betray them to the Mongols. I'm just gonna do it my way. So he's about to leave. Then some girl comes out of the trees, and she's like, oh, you killed the traitor. That was so good of you. And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, psych. And then he kills the girl too, and like makes it look like they killed each other. And then, okay, why does Shiraisi have to kill that girl at all? He really didn't have to, if you think about it, because he could have just been like, yep, I killed the spy.
Because
and then
he still needs to sneak away and betray them. And if she's left alive, it'll raise a lot of suspicion, because she'll be like, oh, she killed that traitor, but then he disappeared forever. And then when the Mongols do show up, they're going to be like, all right, come on.
Well, but he disappears for forever anyway, and then he comes back. It's not like he disappears forever. So, like, it's going to be suspicious either way.
I see what he was trying to do. Like, he was trying to frame it as, like, a death of passion between, like, the girl and the guy. But, like, he obviously has, like, I was thinking this before they even got to it in the episode. Like, he totally screwed up when he cut, like, 3 feet through the torso of Obusama.
Yeah.
And then gave the girl, like, a little tiny sword and was like, oh, yeah, she could totally have made this wound with that tiny little sword. And, like, I was glad that the characters in the show, like, figured out, like,
yeah, that's what gave him away.
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Because I was just like, this is dumb. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I like his kind of quotes. Like, he has this one where he's like, I shudder to think of the terrible thing I've done, but I must keep moving forward. And it's like, I don't know. I like him as a character now, because he's more complex. So he goes to the Mongol guy, and he's like, hey, I know I'm not the original dude you offered this deal to, but, like, I'm here now. And the Mongol guy kind of, like, tries to make him feel shitty about what he's done. And then after he fishes and makes him feel ashamed, he kind of like turns and he's like, look at this face. This is the face that you want in a traitor. Otherwise,
this
you
is
can't.
like what a real guilty man looks like.
Yeah, otherwise you can't trust him. And I'm like, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So they agree to work with Shiraishi. And then later on, Shiraishi comes back and like sits with everyone else and is like, oh yeah, I went and killed this animal and that's where I was. Which, once again, he could have done without killing that girl. He could have been like, oh yeah, I did that. Now I'm going to go off and kill some game for a while. And then you get the impression that next episode, the Mongols are going to attack. And that's why Shiraishi is here. So
I was also happy that best girl Kano, who is like the attendant to Princess Teruhi, the ninja, as Leo says, like she finally got to do something again. She's basically not been in the show for a bunch of episodes. Teruhi's like, why don't you sing us a song? You're the piano man. And she sings a song, like really reluctantly sings after like trying to make like 5 excuses. And then of course she has like ridiculously beautiful voice and it's nice. It's a really nice song.
Yeah, it was okay. I was like, bleh. Whatever.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, that whole thing with Shiraishi, like, trying to frame the girl, I don't know if it was necessary. I see what Leo's saying, though, that it would have been suspicious kind of either way. But yeah, he tried to be sneaky, and it didn't work out, basically.
Well, I will say something for when you're in the moment, you're not really thinking, like, super clearly. So maybe it was more just like, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do. I'll just kill her. Maybe it was that sort of thing. Who knows?
Could be. I had fun catching up with this show. It's been pretty fun to follow so far. So
yeah, it was. I did have fun binging it too.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We should have just like had it as a lock in the first place. You
fucker! Shut your little mouth.
Moving on. Thursday.
You don't want to get into this with me, Leo. All right, let's go.
We got Sirius the Jaeger. So episode 7 is called True Confession. So first things first, in like this first scene of the episode, I really liked the just like driving electronic background music playing throughout the entire first scene. It was just really awesome. So if you remember where we left off, like Yuli was being backed into a corner by Mikhail and Kirshner, but Willard has convinced the military to show up and intervene. And so the military are super pissed off about the Frankenstein weapon experiment that killed a bunch of their soldiers and like a general, and they want revenge on Kirschner. So they brought like a few tanks with them and like a squad of infantry to kick some vampire ass, basically. So this gives Yuli and Mikhail some time to talk because like Kirschner goes to deal with this stuff. And while they're also fighting each other, they're talking. And Mikhail basically explains that their father is the one who took the Ark of Sirius and went away with it when they were kids. He doesn't tell Yuli much more, but he just does say, like, do the thing that only you can do, because he's the last of the Sirius. And he also tells him to live on, and then Mikhail just basically disappears. Meanwhile, on the roof, Willard is having a showdown with Kirschner, who disarms him before Yuli shows up. And Kirschner's like, how are you so loyal to Willard after what he's done to you? And Yuli has no idea what he's talking about. And he explains that the attack on Dogville was only possible because Willard, who is an archaeologist, was able to decipher the location of the Ark of Sirius from an ancient book that the vampires had.
I have a problem with this because they're not even sure. It doesn't say if Willard was even aware of what deciphering this book would do.
Well, I don't think he was.
They were.
I think
he probably wasn't. No,
yeah, I think the idea is just that, like,
but then Yuli has no reason to be mad at him.
Well, but it's kind of like
Willard still knows that like his actions led to this consequence.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he didn't know
before.
Well, yeah, he was there. Like, remember, he was there as it was happening.
But he did. Did he not know until that point?
No, but I think what Yuli is also pissed about is that like Willard never told him anything after the fact.
Well, but like, how do you say that to someone? How are you like, oh, by the way, like, I didn't know that they were evil vampires who were going to slaughter your whole clan. I just thought that they were like funding my little research experiment, and I was excited to have fun, like, you know, a backer. But like, I totally caused your whole family to die. Sorry about that. Like, it's kind of an awkward conversation.
I didn't know what the Nazis were gonna do with the Ark of the Covenant, Mr. Jones. Like, I just directed them to it, and then they burnt their faces off. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
wow.
The realization of all this kind of enrages Yuli, but he takes it out on Kirschner rather than Willard. He sort of transforms into his beastly, serious form, and he attacks Kirschner, but Kirschner uses his sword skills to disarm him and like plunge his sword into Yuli's chest. But that doesn't stop Yuli because he's a badass. He just like grabs the sword. He like uses like his vice grip to like break the sword off and like pull himself in like closer to Kirschner, and then like he just like takes his other arm and like plunges the sword right back into Kirschner's heart. Killing him. And as he dies, I liked Kirschner's like shitty like last line. He's like, "You're such an inelegant animal."
Oh, I know. Like, well, you're dead though.
It was a good bad guy death.
You know.
Yeah, just before this fight, there was Yuli and Mikhail like clashed weapons for a hot minute. Did you pay attention to what it sounded like when their swords clashed?
No, was it like awful. Berserk 2016?
It was just like it was like somebody was standing there with like a big monk bell, and they were just like bong when they heard it, and I was like, what? And it was about as out of place as the voice actors for the English dub of Princess Principal. So,
oh my god, the English actors for Princess Principal are just a Hermione Granger impersonator for Ange, and then just like for Dorothea, it's like a Dolores Umbridge or something.
It is bad.
So bad. It's so weird. Like, I understand that they're like technically British, but like, oh my god, it was really weird, that dub. Anyway. So Kirschner dies. Yuli jumps on Willard next, and like he almost like loses his cool, but like he barely stops himself before like killing Willard. And like it explains that like he was trying to like protect Yuli, and like that was his atonement for his actions, and he told himself that if Yuli ever found out about the truth, like he would accept like dying that day, and like that day has come. So Yuli instead demands like, no, like you need to tell me everything you know about the Ark. Like, I'm not stupid, I'm not just gonna kill you, just tell me everything. Meanwhile, Mansion's like really damaged. The V shipping like promises to pay reparations to like Ryoko's family and everything for like just destroying their house.
Oh, jinx.
Yeah.
Yeah, that house has to be torn down at this point. There's no repairing it.
Yeah. So Willard tells Yuli that he's learned that only a Sirius can protect the Ark. And so that's clearly what Mikhail was talking about when he said, do what only you can do. And the other thing he knows about the Ark is that it contains knowledge and like certain technologies that are like very high level. And so they just decide, let's go look for this together. I'm not going to like, Yuli's like, I'm not going to kill you. Let's just look for this thing. Let's find it. Let's like finish it. Willard goes to report into headquarters, but he's met at that rundown bar that his friend used to be at by Major Iba. And he has top secret orders now that he's been given by the Japanese military to search for the Ark as well. And apparently the military has like known about this Ark for years, but like the last man they sent after it just completely disappeared. So I'm sure that'll come up. But like, yeah, Willard lets Iba know that like the vampires led by Yevgraf are also after the Ark, and they were last seen in Sakhalin, which is this big island off the coast of eastern Russia and just north of Japan.
This does irritate me because like all of a sudden everyone is now out to look for it. Like they weren't before.
Yeah.
But now suddenly
they've all figured out that the plot has to come to a close in the next 3 episodes.
Exactly.
So they all have to look for this. Yeah, it's kind of convenient. And then what the other weirdly dramatic thing that happens is that V Shipping is ordered to return to London for some reason. Like, I don't really know why they're ordered to return to London.
For convenience of
but
plot.
Yuli decides... Yeah, I just felt it was like plot drama. Like that's the only reason I could get. And then Yuli just like breaks off from the group and is like, I'm going to go to Sakhalin on my own. And so that's where they part ways at the end of this episode.
I think they'll probably show up at the end. Like there'll be some errand that they have to do. And then after that's done, they'll be like, and now we're going to go help Yuli. You know, or something.
Yeah, they must have just wanted to get Yuli on his own to get him into some trouble and to like have him learn more about himself away from the big group. So yeah. Yeah, so you find out, we're going to move on to episode 8, unless Leo has something to say. Leo, do you have something to say?
No, go on.
All right. Okay.
Leo only has one thing to say about this episode, and we'll get to that later.
Okay, so episode 8, The Sanctuary of Sirius. So you find out in this episode that I can't ever fucking say this vampire's name. Yevgraf? I don't fucking know. I'm going to call him Yevgraf.
It's weird how they pronounce it in the anime. They pronounce it almost like Evgraf or something. But yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. It's a terrible name. He knows where the box is, too, in Karaf's port. So Karaft is supposed to be the sacred land of Sirius. So I'm assuming that's kind of like where they were from originally. And so as we talked about last episode, everyone is pretty much converging on this place somehow at the same time. Whatever. So Yevgraf arrives at this cave first with Mikhail, the brother. And they get there, and with the Frankenstein dude, too, which it's kind of hilarious, because, like, the Frankenstein dude is like, oh, yeah, and I'm going in the cave with you. And they're like, no, you're going to stay out here, you fucker. Like, sit.
I like how Yevgraf just, like, completely ignores this guy.
Oh, I
like,
know.
Completely.
I know.
He's, like, so excited.
Clarwine?
Clarwine, or, something like that.
He's like, oh, okay, I'll just wait here for you. So then Yevgraf and Mikhail go into the cave together, and they kind of talk about like, oh, all these runes like on the cave are like the sacred language of the Sirius and all this, and like this whole scene, like with the cave and them going in, and then like there's a like a seal that they have to break and all this. It kind of reminds me of like the scene in Harry Potter with the Horcrux with Dumbledore and Harry. You remember this? Oh
yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that.
They go into the cave and Dumbledore has to drink the liquid, and it's not water. It's
Yeah.
I guess you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what this reminds me of? This is clearly a sequel to Planet With, and the Sirius faction lived in the caves, but they were sealed away by the sealing faction.
Oh my god! I did think of
too
that.
Much serious this season. It's ridiculous.
I know. It's like they found a good word. It's like the Japanese found this word and they're like, you know what? This sounds awesome and European. Let's use it in all of our anime.
Within the next year, there will be an anime called Sirius.
Oh my
gosh! I guarantee
it. If it happens, we have to cover it just for ironic reasons now.
I'd be down for that.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, they get inside. You find out that Michael and Eulily's dad, like, he went off to this cave to seal the arc box thing, like, away so that the vampires couldn't get it. So he sealed it in this, like, trap in the middle of the cage in exchange for his life in some dramatic plot. But since like Yuli and Michael are related to him, like the idea is that either of the brothers might be able to break the seal. So the episode doesn't go too much into like what kind of trap it is, which really irritated me because they just show you this red pool, like oh, and it's all dramatic and like dunna, and then the like Michael like tries to crawl through it, and he's like, oh, it hurts, oh, and you're like. You're like, but what is it? Like, is it literally the dad's blood? And did he turn into a pool? Like, what's happening?
It's what you would imagine, like, a vampire walking through holy water would be like.
Yeah,
just
like
the shit out of you.
Instead of walking through it, which he can totally do, it's not deep. He instead gets on all fours and crawls through it, therefore increasing, like, the skin damage that he would, have.
Like, I just like to imagine this is Leo crawling through like a pot of tomato soup, and he's just like, "Oh,
no, not tomatoes!"
Like
they
tomato
burn.
soup from a can. Yeah. I like that.
Oh, really? You like that? Oh,
wow. Oh my God! We found
a
vegetable that he will consume. Everyone, Jesus fucking Christ!
Tomato soup is like saying ketchup tastes like a tomato. So.
You are a strange man. But anyway.
Thank you.
So that's dumb. But then you find out like he kind of wants to kill himself. Because like at first I was like, why are you crawling through it? You're increasing the damage to your skin. And then like you find out he kind of wants to die. Like to spite Yevgraft. Which because I guess like Yevgraft has like ordered him not to die. And so he can't die. And he's like, haha, I'm gonna die doing what he told me to do. Like it's gonna be like a catch-22. And then Yevgraft like kind of realizes like, oh, like if I keep telling him to do this, he's gonna die. And so he's like, nope. I rescind that. I call take backsies. And Mikhail's like, shit, not the take backsies, curses. And like gets angry. But it's too late. And so you find out in that scene kind of that like vampires always have to follow the commands of their makers, which is probably why Mikhail is still alive and not dead. So you kind of learn more about that. And then it kind of switches back to Ryoko, and you find out that she ran away to London. And I'm like, yes! And then you find out immediately after her dad is going to creepily follow her, and you're like, no!
So no, wait. Ryoko actually runs away to the right
London.
place. She actually gets on a train to the island off Russia, but her dad thinks that she's following V-shipping to London.
Oh, okay.
And so her dad goes to London, which is like the wrong place to go. It was kind of funny, actually.
I misunderstood then, because I was like...
Yeah, that was hard to follow, for sure.
Yeah.
I missed that too.
Because I was like, why is she going to London? But I guess she'll end up where she needs to be, though. Okay, yeah. Then it flashes to a new scene where you, Lily, meets this new character called the Bishop when he gets to the island, who is really fucking hot. Like, he looks like a combo of a cowboy mixed with an English nobleman. And it feels like every time he walks in the room, there should be like sexy music that plays. And I'm like, yes, more. But I have a feeling he's going to be like a bad character, which makes me sad.
You know what they say about the Bishop Cat? You can only have sex diagonally.
my gosh, could you imagine? Like, get on the bed in like an awkward diagonal position and be like, listen, baby, just position yourself above me in this diagonal angle. We're going to get it on. It'd be hilarious. Okay.
I did like adding him to the show because he's like our member of another team of Jaegers, right? And they all died, which is interesting. It makes me a little bit suspicious about him, but also it is just like a good person for Yuli to meet, even if he isn't like suspicious, because Yuli can see like what could happen to all of his friends, like if things go wrong. So it gives Yuli something to think about.
Definitely is suspicious. I think he will turn out to be like actually a Jaeger, but like a vampire Jaeger. Like he's a vampire against other vampires or something like that. Because I am holding out.
It was interesting how he
occur.
said like the whole smell thing, how like Yuli's like, you have that smell of like vampire blood on you. And he's like, well, yeah, when you work in this business and you kill enough of them, like you just start smelling like them. And like, I actually like that as an explanation. I'd be okay if that's like true. I'd also be okay if like, no, he's like part vampire. And that's why he smells that way. But yeah.
But I'm just like bent on this being a thing in this show. It may never be. I just want it to be. But yeah, and so that's kind of the end of this episode. There is like a little snapshot where they're going to meet this like old man or something. So we'll see what that is. So.
And then there was Leo's favorite part of the episode.
Well, they did get to the old man, didn't they?
Well, they kind of show him for a second, but they don't really tell you much about him.
Yeah, he's like getting attacked by vampires, and then those two show up at the exact same time, and then they get attacked by Lolita vampires. And when I saw them come on screen, I was like, Bcom's going to hate this.
Well, we've seen them like briefly before, but now we know their names are like Larissa and Tamara, and they are pretty anime tropey, like like the most anime tropey part of this show so far, I would say. But we'll see how they handle them. I don't know. I have high hopes that they'll be really dumb and great.
Wow.
Because if they're going to make it dumb, they better make it really fucking dumb, just to be ironic.
Yeah. So they seem pretty dangerous. They have long fingernails, just like that other badass vampire from the beginning of the series.
Yep.
Speaking of...
Oh, Agatha?
Yeah, Agatha. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Fish Bananas. It's a good show.
The show with only one female in it.
Yeah.
So episode 7, The Rich Boy. The crew are now in California, and they stop by Max's ex-wife's place to see his son for his birthday. You learn Max's ex is a blonde bombshell who takes pictures for a man's model magazine.
Well, actually, doesn't she take pictures of women's cooches for the man? Like for
well, no, that's what Max did. I think she.
Yeah.
No, don't
Max
they both though take pictures of like?
Yeah,
people's...
she says like she'll make the guys like show their buttholes.
Oh,
okay. Is what he says about her. Like, so it's more than just like a modeling magazine. Yeah.
Yes, I was just like, yes, I love this idea of a couple who both just take dirty pictures of people for a living. That's kind of fun.
She also in the past worked with Shinichi on a project, so the two knew each other, which was. I don't know why that was in there because it hasn't led to anything yet. But
do you think that Max's ex-wife has pictures of his butthole, and this is why he's so afraid of her?
Yes.
Oh shit.
That's definitely part of the divorce proceedings that are clearly ongoing.
But anyways, that night they go to the address that the dying man gave Ash. As soon as they get there, they hear a scream around the back, and they go back there and they find a guy getting kidnapped. They save him. And the guy's name is Lee. He's a new character to our show. He supposedly was adopted, and then Dino gets a call that they went to that house just as he expected, so he's got an inside man, apparently. The professor who lives there was actually with Dino at the time, right? Or like two professors lived there. It was weird.
No, it's like, so there's a brother. The professor who lives in the house is named Alexis Dawson, and Abraham Dawson is his brother who is with Dino. He's the guy who shot Griffin the other episode. So they're going, like, they're in Los Angeles to find Alexis Dawson, who is this scientist who we later find out worked on Banana Fish. Yeah.
So Lee's father has been missing, and they decide to check out his study. that had been ransacked at some point. Ash decides to check out the computer and has Shorter check into Lee's background because he thinks he's suspicious. He's like just too quiet or something. Eventually on the computer, Ash finds the formula for banana fish, and then they're all like, oh, so it is definitely a drug and not a person. And I was like, I thought we established this already, but okay. Moving on.
Strangely, the formula is just like 3 ripe bananas and 2 pieces of tilapia.
Yep, that joke fell flat.
Only with you. Look, there's some listeners out there who just like swerved off the road laughing so hard.
So Shorter is meeting with his informant, and but when he's there, he gets threatened by like the Chinese mafia that has connections to the one back at his home, and they want Shorter to spy on Ash for them. He goes back to the mansion and reports to Ash what he found out about Lee, which wasn't much. And when Ash leaves, Shorter then threatens Lee and basically physically assaults him. Then he finds a tattoo and realizes he must be Yut Lung, which is one of the other guys. He's the youngest brother or something like that. So he's like the leader of the Chinese mafia in Cali or wherever they're at right now or anything like that. And then Lee's personality just like completely changes, and he tells Shorter he works for him now. And in a later scene, Shorter gets super pissed with Lee and throws him on the bed and like stabs a knife right next to his head because Lee was threatening his sister if Shorter doesn't obey him.
Doesn't he stab a lot of his hair out? Like, anyone would be pissed off. If you spent so much time growing out your hair and someone stabbed a bunch of your hair out, you would be fucking pissed. Let me tell you.
It was just like a lock or something like that.
Well, and he doesn't even give a shit. He's like, oh, well, some of my hair's gone now. That's not the way that would work. If you care enough to grow your hair out. I think he was turned
on by Shorter mounting him on the bed.
No, I mean, you find out later he's not really into like the whole... Like, it's more like he's just used, you know?
Okay, sure. So, when Shorter was growing up, he always used to look up, like, to the Lees and stuff, but now he sees that they're no different than Dino's group, so he's, like, fucking hates them.
Yeah, that was an interesting, like, aspect of this whole thing, is how, like, Shorter, like, kind of really believed in, like, the, like, you know, like sticking together with like fellow Chinese people, and he thought like the Lees were like powerful and good people, and now like that he knows more about them, he's just super disappointed.
Yeah, like he's
it's
almost
betrayed
like
his people basically.
He's taken some like hometown pride, and kind of got ruined for him. Sad.
So yeah, to wrap up the episode, Ash has to coldly tell AG to go back to Japan because he is otherwise in the way. It kind of upsets AG, and Ash is later shown being a little bit tore up because he had to be cold to him. He didn't want to. And then the final scene is of like some goons showing up at Max's ex's place and like just busting in the door. What's her name? Jessica?
I can't remember. I think it's Jessica. I think you're right.
It's Jessica.
Yeah. So that's how that episode wraps up. And it goes straight into episode 8.
Yeah. I guess I'll jump into that. We can just give thoughts after. So... episode 8, Banal Story. So, Lee's men have kidnapped Max's ex-wife Jessica and his son Michael, and are demanding he bring Ash to them to set them free. And so, Ash and Max drive off to save them, but when they show up, it's weird. Like, the cops have already arrived, and like Lee's men have all run off already, which is strange. So, this was all just a distraction to get AG on his own. And Yut Lung like uses acupuncture on eBay and AG to like paralyze them, like with needles. And AG can neither see nor hear. Like he uses like different types of acupuncture. So AG is just like completely paralyzed, can't see or hear anything. But eBay is paralyzed, but he can see and hear, and sees that like Shorter betrayed them to the Lee clan. Like he can see this as Yut Lung's talking to him. And Yut Lung tells eBay to let Ash know that AG will become one of Dino Golzine's toys unless he goes to see Lee Wong Lung in New York, who's like the older Lee brother. And so as he's leaving, Shorter quietly promises eBay that like he'll die before he lets anybody lay a figure on AG. So he's still trying to remain loyal at this point.
I keep hearing you say, Liz, it's just like eBay. I'm like, who's threatening eBay?
Don't take away our auctions, please. No.
eBay's paralyzed. Oh, no. So I maybe also call him Shunichi. I don't. What? I'm going to call him Mibe. So Arthur arrives at the L.A. airport to take AG back to Dino. But Shorter puts a knife to AG's throat, and he says, "I'll kill him if you try to take him away from me." So another member of the Lee family is there, another brother, Lee Hualung, one of Yutlung's older brothers, and tells Arthur to just go with what Shorter wants. And Arthur ends up just letting Shorter hold on to AG as they take them both away back to New York. And then once they leave, like, Hua Lung, who is Yutlung's older brother, like, kind of, like, hits on his younger brother. Like, basically tells him, like, you're so beautiful, even though, like, we're family. Like, I have to tell you this.
just like your mother.
Yeah, they
like,
creepily fetishize Yutlung in this a lot.
Yep.
And that's what I said earlier. That's why I made that comment, because, like, you can kind of tell he's sort of resigned to it. He's like, well, this is just the way it is, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But...
So he must have a different mother from Hualong, because, like, he talks about his mother, like, she's the one who corrupted our father's heart, and, like, his brothers, like, Yutlung says later in this episode, like, they killed his mother, and he holds a grudge against them for that, obviously. But yeah, he looks like exactly like her. He looks very feminine, so yeah. Meanwhile, back at the house, Ash and Max figure out that Shorter must have betrayed them because his sister was threatened by the Lee clan. And so then Alexis Dawson just, like, shows up out of the blue and is like, why are you guys in my house? What are you doing here?
I don't want you to kill me because you have guns, but, like, you're kind of invading my house.
I was planning to Netflix and chill, and you're all up in my house.
Yeah.
So yeah, back in New York, Dino is having, like, a super special meeting with a senator named Kippard and this colonel named Holstock about banana fish. So these guys knew of the existence of the prototype, and, like, when the soldiers all died, like when Griff died and all these suicides happened, that was, like, the prototype that they were, like, using at the time. But Dino is now, like, assuring them, like, no, we've perfected the drug now this time around. Like, there won't be any incidents like that. So all these guys are pretty bad guys because they basically use the prototype banana fish as, like, a human experiment. They'll use humans as guinea pigs to test it. So Ash and Max explained to Alexis Dawson that Griffin was drugged by banana fish and shot dead by Alexis's brother Abraham. So they have a right to know about, like, what is the reality of this drug. And so Alexis explains the backstory. Like, 20 years ago, he was just starting out as medical staff in the city, and his brother Abraham was a medical student, and they decided to make drugs to sell for money.
As one does.
As one does. Yeah, as you do. And they accidentally produced banana fish, which he calls the devil itself. So back in New York, Yutlung explains to Wang Lung that banana fish causes this heart failure-like symptom, which is perfect for assassinations. And Wang Lung, like, choke slams Yutlung into a desk for not obtaining the data that Ash had hacked from the computer at Dawson's house. And Yutlung's like, I didn't get a chance. He didn't give me a chance to do it. So once he calms down, he tells him to, like, get close to Dino, figure out what he plans to do with the drug. And then at the end of the scene, Yutlung, like, thinks to himself that banana fish is clearly more than just a simple assassination drug. And he was, like, kind of withholding the whole truth from his older brother, Wang Lung. And so more on that, Alexis is still explaining banana fish. It says it amplifies all of your nervous emotions, including, like, a bad LSD trip in some users, and makes them susceptible to hypnosis. So basically, Griff was used as a lab rat, and he murdered his fellow soldiers based on, like, unending, like, nightmares that he was having and hypnosis that was used on him. He was hypnotized in order to, like, kill people, kill soldiers.
This sounded
so
very,
Alexis
like,
wanted to
60s CIA experiment-ish.
Yeah, it is very. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense with when this manga was, like, originally set, because it was originally set, like, around the Vietnam War in the manga. And this has been more updated. But so that would make more sense for, like, the LSD, like, military experiments around that time. But yeah. So Alexis wanted to destroy banana fish, but he couldn't bring himself to destroy it because he was a scientist and it was a new discovery. And so there's this funny sequence where kind of Max is like he holds Ash back because Ash really wants to punch this guy in the face, and then Max is like, I'm gonna punch him in the face. He just punches him really hard, and then eBay punches him, like the company eBay just punches him in the face, and it's really bad. So finally Lee's men show up at Dawson's house. They take everyone prisoner and they burn down the house after securing all of the data and evidence about Banana Fish at the end of this episode. So yeah.
So, man, there's a lot they can do with this drug now if you can basically give it to somebody and then make them do whatever you want. I mean, you could potentially turn, like, some really loyal people against, like, their own faction. I don't know. There's a lot you could do with the story now with that, so I'm really
you could make somebody watch all of Detective Conan. Like, that would be crazy.
Why would you do that to somebody?
You make him watch all of Sazai-san since like 1947 or whenever it started.
Jeez, you could make him watch Revue Starlight.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
The torture, the
horror. You can make him watch it over and over and over again, like Banana. We'll get to that later. Wow. So yeah, I liked this episode at least because we finally got like a lot of information about what Banana Fish like super actually is. Like it's pretty clear now, and so a lot of like the different sides are set up. But yeah, there's a lot more episodes in this series. So I'm like wondering what's going to happen now. Like, what is the next big shoe to drop? So I don't know.
Kat, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think I added most of my comments during it. Like I said, I just kept thinking of like the actual like interesting experiments that the CIA and the government did with drugs like in the 60s. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, this is totally based on that. This is totally what they're basing this off of. So
all right, so let me serve you up some Harukana Receive. But firstly, get this 3D graphics idol shit out of my anime.
That was so out of place.
It was weird.
So weird.
I was like, is this the same anime? What the fuck is this? Am I in the wrong anime? I looked like 3 times at the title.
Bcom did too.
I wrote the exact same thing down. I was like, I pulled a Leo at the start of this episode where I like closed my Crunchyroll player and checked the episode number. I was like, what the fuck?
It's not even good idol stuff. You're exactly right. It's like terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, so what's happening here is that like Akari is having like a very intense daydream. So she saw in a beach volleyball magazine that Narumi and Ayasa won first in a tournament, and then they did like a photo shoot for the magazine. And Akari is now going to join the club and start playing so she can be an idol herself.
A beach volleyball idol.
Yeah. Oh, and then I keep seeing this, but they need to stop all this fucking static stretching before you do strenuous activities. You're going to fucking injure yourself. You need to be doing dynamic stretches before an activity. You save the static stretches for afterwards to help with recovery. And that's my public service announcement.
Is there, when you do dynamic stretching, is there more boob jiggling?
Potentially.
I mean, I agree. Like, they should definitely do that.
Yeah, like some jumping. That would definitely, could be dynamic stretching. So Akari has a master plan teaming up with one of the Thomas sisters and winning a tournament so she can be an idol. But neither of the sisters will pair up with her, and because they're just like, nah, we only work with each other. And then she like runs off, but she leaves her bag behind, and Kanata and Haruka go and try to find her at school the next day to give it to her. But all the girls are like, she looks familiar. Why does she look familiar to us? But they can't figure it out at the moment. So as they go in search of her, it turns out she's a bit of a celebrity. And what it was is she appeared in a local commercial when she was a kid.
No, so I think she's... Hasn't she been like in the commercial since she was a kid, but like continuously? Like they
only show the one when she's like a child.
I don't know if it's possible.
My impression was that she still is that. Like, they could have done, like, a series with her, like, from when she was a kid. Which is, if you think about it, more funny. But I don't know.
No.
She's, like, horrified when they look it up on their phone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's in my notes. Her classmates think she lives, like, in a totally different world and doesn't have time to have, like, any friends or anything like that. But Kanata remembers how when Narumi first transferred in, she just read a whole lot and nobody talked to her, but actually she really wanted to be friends with everybody and was just shy. And they think the same thing might be true of Akari. They find her alone and join her for lunch. Haruka flat out asks her if she's lonely, and after a little teasing, and Akari finally is like, just leave me alone. And Haruka says she will leave her alone if she beats her at beach volleyball. But if she loses, she has to join the club. She refuses, but then Kanata's like, well, how about me since I'm short? And she finally agrees to it. And yeah, so since it's 1-on-1, they have just like have the court to make it smaller. And Emily will just be setting the ball for them, and they will compete to see who can score the most spikes. And then Haruka and Claire will just be the judges. Kanata predicts every one of her moves, and it just turns into a battle of stamina that Kanata eventually wins. Akari ends up joining the group, and it's funny when they show Haruka the commercial Akari was in, and she gets like really embarrassed by it. She's like, no, stop it.
Yeah, I like that. That was fun.
Yeah, and then they end the episode with the induction of Emily and Claire's mom, Marissa, who is a total MILF. Woo.
Athlete mommy, as they call her next episode.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
So, like, I'm going to say this more after next episode, too, but, like, I'm just, like, sort of confused why they added Akari to this series. Like, I understand, like, the need to have a fifth club member. Like, but, like, the fact they add her makes things really awkward because it's, like, a pairs sport. They already have 4 people who are paired up together. So where does she fit in unless something happens to one of the other people, which is possibly what's going to happen. But
I mean, what they go into tournaments, which they're going to do probably pretty soon, and one of them gets injured. Now they got a sub.
See, that's my guess for what is actually going to happen based on what happens in the next episode.
My ankle, Akari, take over.
Just like that. Like that is exact. I picture that exact scene happening. So, so I guess I'll just move on to the next episode.
I did want to say that commercial also made me just really crave sour stuff. Like it made me really want to drink like lemonade or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because they're like, it's super sour.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
and I was like, God damn it. Even though it's a fake commercial, it worked on me.
That's awesome. Okay. Episode 8. This one's called I'll Keep Her Promise. So Marisa is there to train Haruka and Kanata after Claire asked for her to help. And Marisa is also really happy to see Kanata playing beach volleyball again. So that's cool. That's just kind of cool, I thought.
Yeah.
They start training by trying to block Marisa's spikes, and she just pretty much just mops the floor with them. They can't even do nothing. The two eventually figure out they need to be working together in a different way, and they decide to have Haruka just try and slow down the ball rather than completely blocking because that wasn't working. This way, Kanata might possibly be able to get to the ball. On about the third try, they manage to stop one of the spikes, and Marisa praises them for figuring out, and it's kind of cool. Then they do like a quick flashback scene of when the Thomas sisters went up against Kanata and Narumi when they were kids. And I just got to say, I don't know how old they are, but the Thomas sisters have big old boobies on tiny little bodies. And I was like, okay.
It was a little
Don't
awkward,
you know that
They're
blonde
pretty
chicks in anime can only have giant boobs? That's like the way that anime works.
Okay. Then they go to a shrine because it's the new year, and they make, the wishes at the shrine, and then they get those papers that tell you if you got good luck or bad luck for the year. And like Akari gets hilariously cursed and the others get off with like either good or great blessings. But while they're there, they get a call from Ayasa saying that they're in town, but are at the airport and getting ready to leave. She would have called sooner, but Narumi wouldn't let her. Now the girls have to make it there before their plane leaves.
So what, are they just like transferring flights for like an hour? Is that must be what they're doing, I guess? Because like I was trying to figure out like why were you in town for like 5 minutes? Like I guess they must just be transferring. I don't know.
I think they were there. It's just that
Narumi just like wouldn't
let her, until the very end there.
Okay.
So they have to get to the airport before their plane leaves. Fortunately, Claire called their mom for a ride, and she arrives to pick them up. Unfortunately, Claire called their mom for a ride. And by the way, Emily and Claire brace themselves in the vehicle you know Marisa's going to be a crazy driver, which she turns out to be. They end up getting stuck in traffic, and all the girls run the rest of the way. They barely make it, and Kanata, and they finally get there, but they're like walking through the gates and whatever, and Kanata just like yells at Narumi. She's like, I promise I'll go to the finals, but it'll be with Haruka as her partner this time. And Narumi's just like walking away without turning around, and it seems cold at first, but then she like raises her hand with the pinky extended, and then Kanata does the same thing.
They do like a little pinky promise from far away. Yeah. So
Pinky promise.
I was thinking that maybe like Kanata was just gonna like team up with Narumi here, and then like that would leave Haruka alone without a partner, and then she would partner up with like what's her name? Oh god, I'm blanking. Akari, yeah. Well, that would have been kind of cruel though if that happens.
Yeah, but then Ayase wouldn't have a partner.
Yeah, and then Ayase would be left out, so it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out ways for like this weird, like odd number of people to make sense.
You are hell bent on this. You seem to be really focused about that.
I was really focused on one other thing. So, like in the beginning of this episode, when athlete mommy, as Akari calls her, is like spiking at Kanata and Haruka, I didn't like there's like this one line that gets translated to like, oh, she's more hardcore than I even thought. And, like, you can hear the voice actor say, like, Sparta no Kuchii. Like, it's clearly that they're saying, like, she's even more Spartan coach than I thought. And I was just like, why are you translating the word Spartan to something else? Like, everybody knows what that means. Like, there's no reason to translate Spartan to hardcore. Like, and I was wondering, maybe it's easier to translate, if they're translating from English into other languages, maybe it's easier to translate hardcore into other languages than Spartan. But it's probably just like a choice that they're making. Yeah, I don't know. I just think translators overdo it sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of interpretation. I wish that they would stay like more true to what they're trying to say sometimes too, because you see that a lot, that sort of thing.
Yeah, especially when you can just like hear the actual word in there. That's the time when it really like annoys me. It's like they literally said the English word. Why change it?
That's true.
About these two episodes in general, I felt like they were kind of fluff episodes. Like, just I liked them, but like they just felt like not like super important to the plot going forward. It's like adding Akari, like again, she's like an extra character for now, but maybe like when they went to that shrine visit, one of the things, like two of them prayed like that I won't get hurt. So I was like, okay, one of them's going to get hurt, and that's how it's going to happen. But like, yeah, like right now, Akari just feels like an extra, and I also don't like how she wears like a garter belt as part of her freaking swimsuit. I was totally
fine with that. It's just like a fashion thing. What the hell?
I guess it's something an idol would do. You know, that makes sense.
Yeah, there you go.
Fine.
Yeah. So Kat can tell us about a show that is not happy. It's not sugary or sweet, and it's no way to live your life. So,
okay.
I'm so excited to talk about this show.
Yeah, this is a fucked up show.
I am so excited.
This is a little piece of mess in the world. I don't know who thought of this. Whoever thought of this show deserves to be on some sort of registry. Like, they need to be followed.
Wow.
They do! So, there are 3 different pedophiles in this fucking show. Whoever wrote this needs to be on a registry.
That's like every other anime, but the difference is this show actually tries to make you feel uncomfortable about it. Unlike something like Eromanga Sensei, which is like, oh, there's pedophiles in this show, but like they're just having fun, you know, they're having a blast.
Just having fun.
Girls.
That is true.
Great old time.
They did have a show.
We're having a great time playing guitars in church.
They
Never
did have
mind
a show
the pedophiles.
Last season that was literally about babysitting small children and had a pedophile character as a joke. So I will acknowledge that Japan has some fucked up joke views of pedophiles.
Yeah, so that's what I kind of appreciate about this show is this show is like, no, these people are like deeply emotionally disturbed, and it's a problem, and we're going to tell a story about it.
They also are like, guess what makes people a pedophile if they get sexually assaulted? Like, which...
That is a problematic element, for sure.
I don't know if you should be like, all right, if you get sexually assaulted, you're going to turn into a pedophile. Everyone hide your kids. Like that's probably
But, like,
not a good.
I feel like there's more truth to that than like not. Like it's a possible thing that could happen where like when your innocence is like taken away by an adult, that you could develop a complex.
I mean, but
where
that's
you know,
more like
you
if
want
that happens
innocence
to
to
you.
fill that lack of innocence. I don't know.
That's more like if it happens to you over and over as like a small child. I have heard that, like that is a thing.
Okay.
But like not when you're a teenager. Like you know what I mean? That doesn't really fit.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it's definitely extreme for sure. Like,
yeah,
I just feel like okay, I can see what they're trying to do here, even if it's ridiculous at times.
Let's rewind a little, and because we gave a little brief. I don't even know how to fucking do a brief. That's really
It's really hard to do a brief synopsis of where we were. So remember, there's like a little girl, right?
No. There's a crazy bitch. She has kidnapped this small child. How old is this child? Like 6?
It's like 5 or 6.
5 or
something,
6.
Yeah.
She's in love with this child, and you're not really sure if she's just like, I love this child as a kid. I kind of think that because I want that to be true. But it's also kind of creepy. So like it could be 4 pedophiles. Who fucking knows? But yeah, so she loves this little girl that she kidnapped off the street. Not really sure yet exactly how she picked up this child. We know that like she found her somewhere, and instead of being like, I should take this child to the police, she's like, I'm gonna kidnap this child. She's my child now. So this girl is a psychopath who just murders people indiscriminately and is like, but it's okay because I murder people for love. And then throughout the show, you just meet more and more fucked up characters that are tangentially related to her. And just goes from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, I'm going to pull up the Mal for this because I often forget the names of these characters, and I think it's important to make sure that we're getting the names right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of characters that have weird situations. Like the most weird one is that the blonde guy, like I think his name is Mitsuboshi.
Or Taiyo. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, Taiyo. So he's the one who was like sexually assaulted by an older woman in like the early episodes, and now has developed an obsession with Shio, who's the little girl who at one point left the house because she was never supposed to leave, but what's her name? Sato was late coming home, so she left and she wandered into this park, and then like Toya, whatever his name is, wanders into her and like develops like a very clearly pedophilic.
Doesn't
like,
he
desire.
literally jizz his pants while she like pats his head?
If he didn't, he might as well.
Oh, I mean, I think he
have.
did.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty.
He's like, what if I take you home? And then he thinks to himself, like, she's like patting my head. This feels so good. Like, what if I touched her instead? Like, we could do like lots of things like that.
Yeah, no,
and
it's
pretty
creepy.
fucked up.
Also, in that scene, Sato, the main pink-haired girl, violently claws out this weird, creepy dude's eyes.
Delinquent dude's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a fucked up piece of craziness. So like, grab a seatbelt. If you haven't watched any of this show, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck is happening?" And that's okay, because like that's the show in a nutshell. Even if you have seen it, you're watching it and you're going, "What?" So it's okay. So yeah, you've got Sato, who is the main girl, who is a psychopath. You've got Shio, who is the 5-year-old child who has been kidnapped by Sato. You got Taiyo, the blonde boy who is pedophile boy. You've got Shoka, who is Sato's best friend, and that's important. And then you've got Asahi, who is Shio, the small child's biological brother.
Yeah.
Who is looking for her.
And we've learned in previous episodes, like, right, that we've learned at this point that their father was like an asshole drunk like monster who abused them. And so at one point, their mother ran away with Shio, but left Asahi behind with the father.
Yeah.
And then we also know that something bad obviously happened to the mother at some point. We don't know who killed her yet, but like Shio got basically left alone, and now she ended up with Sato.
Yeah. So at the beginning of episode 7, like they had just introduced this thing where Shoka, who is Sato's best friend, kind of like confronts Sato and is sort of saying, I know something's going on with you. You keep talking about how like you found the love of your life. Something seems to be going on. I'm worried about you. Please tell me what's going on. And Sato is
You're
kind of
not wearing any sexy underwear, so it's clearly not a guy.
Yeah, she's like, listen, you and I used to slut around this town all the fucking time, and we're not doing that anymore, and I'm concerned. So,
It's so true.
Yeah. So she really wants to know, and Sato is like very hesitant to tell her anything because like even though she's friends with Shoko, like she's not gonna tell her this because like she's not gonna tell her like I kidnapped a small child and I'm keeping her in my house because that's not something you say. So so instead of that, I think that Sato decided in her brain, she's like, but I will tell her something personal about me because this confession, and it is a very heartfelt confession, is really hard. You know, I can tell she cares about me and I'm going to open up to her. So they go to the apartment complex where Sato lives with Shio. And at first you're like, oh, like, is she actually going to show her Shio? They get to the front of an apartment building door and there are policemen there and you're like, fuck. And there is a professor, and I cannot remember the name of this. Is his name Daichi? I think his name is Daichi. Yes.
I don't remember his name, but yeah, he's the one who has like an attraction to Sato based on the earlier episode.
This is pedophile number 2. I just started naming them because there's so many.
It's Daichi.
It's Daichi. Right. So he has a creepy stalker obsession with Sato and was like, oh, I'm gonna attack you in a dark alley late at night. And then she's like, oh, but I knew you were stalking me and I'm gonna threaten you and you're gonna have to throw away dead bodies for me. And he's like, that turns me on so much. Oh yeah, baby. And and here we are. That's what you need to know about their backstory. So he is waiting around the corner with these police in front of her house, and he's like having a creepy like convulsion. Like he's so turned on, he's like having convulsions like behind the corner. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, I called the police on this bitch and she's gonna have to deal with this. And oh, it's so hot. And so basically the police are like, there was a complaint about smell. Could you open the door so we can inspect the house? And she is pretty reluctant at first. And of course, I mean, she's also got her friend Shoko there, so this is very awkward for everyone. They go back and forth, and him and Ha for Bennett. She's finally like, okay, I'll let you in the house. She does this like interesting signal. Like she raps on the door like really loudly. Hard. And then like she's like, hey, can you open the door? And her aunt, someone opens the door and you're not sure who it is at first. You're like, oh shit, is it gonna be Shio? Then you see this older lady who is actually her aunt, which we've heard about her aunt, but we all assumed that her aunt is like not living with her or is like dead, because like she's not living with her day to day. We know this. Like Sato is not living with her aunt. But I
was definitely surprised that her aunt was alive.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I was too. I was like, is this an actor? And then I was like, no, I think this is really her aunt.
And she's had this shit beat out now.
Oh, yeah. She's had the shit beat out of her. Like, you can tell she is like fucked up. And also she's crazy because she's got like these insane eyes. She's just like, hello. Mm-hmm. And you can see everyone's discomfort as they search the house. Like the police are like, "Oh, this lady's a little cray cray. Like we're gonna search the house." But, and of course, Shoko and Sato are just sort of sitting there quietly. And then at the end, they're like, oh, we've searched everywhere but this one room that's locked. And you're like, oh no, is it the room with the blood that you see in some of the other episodes where she kills, like where Sato kills everyone? But it's not. It's just a weird room where like there's a bunch of like soiled linens and stuff and trash in it. And it's like filthy and stinky. And like that's where all the smell is coming from. And so they look in there and everyone's disgusted. And then the police are like, all right, we're going to leave now. Like, you should probably clean that. And she's like, oh, I will. Ooh. And then, like, she hits on this police guy in the most, like, fucked up, weird way. Like, she, like, leans.
These police officers suck.
Oh, I know. Like,
I agree
this would
with you,
only
Kat.
happen.
This scene was fascinating. Like,
it was
scene had me
fascinating.
hooked.
Like, she leans in and is like, ooh, you're a boring boy, aren't you? You work hard all day and you don't have anything interesting about you. And, like, she kind of psychoanalyzes this man in a very accurate way in, like, 20 seconds? And, like, fucks him up so much that he, like, goes to hit her, like, in the face. And then she, like, psychoanalyzes him more and is like, that's what you really want. And, like, oh, yeah, hit me. And, like, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I will accept that. Like, you basically later learn that her view on love is to just accept whatever desires, like, your partner has, whether they be like to beat the shit out of you, to have sex with you, to do whatever. So like she's like, I will accept whatever you want. Like, just be like the animalistic person inside you. And you can see that he's like really tempted by this.
Oh, he's like, well, I think
too,
he might come back. Because like at the end of the scene, she's like, I'll always be here waiting. And like the look on his face is like, I might come back here. Like, don't you think?
Yeah. No, I totally thought like there's like 50-50 chance he decides to come back. He gets like really drunk and comes back one night.
And finally, like the female police officer is like, this is fucked up. And she like gets in between them. And then she like hits on the female police officer. Just like, ooh. And they finally basically kind of like
join too.
Yeah, and finally like they kind of run out like this lady is fucked up, we're gonna leave. And I also agreed with you, Leo, where like this would never happen in the US. That like in 30 seconds she would be contained. She would be like in handcuffs on the floor. Like this would never.
She would be tased.
The moment she went to touch the officer, she would have been tased for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's just less fucked up people in Japan? Or do you think that we're just very violent in the US? Or maybe it's like a bit of both?
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of fucked up people in Japan. Police officers do have fewer guns, though.
Who knows?
That's a difference.
But yeah, no, it was interesting. And then as soon as they leave, she like turns to the friend. She like turns to Shoko and is like, "You're lonely too." Oh, and it's just weird. So
it's super weird, yeah.
Yeah, so Sato and Shoko leave, and Sato's like, "Yeah, like that's my fucked up aunt, and she raised me, and I'm related to her, and like that's just the way it is, and that's reality." And like, do you still want to be my friend? And like, you can tell that Shoko like once, so she has this scene in her brain where she's like, I accept you, but she doesn't say it. She just stands there. Yeah.
It's too fucked up. Like she just can't say it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a real thing that happens sometimes, like what you want to do versus like what you are capable of. And like it's almost like her reality ran up against her naive desire of what she wanted. It was kind of.
She starts like, she starts crying. She's like, I can't believe how much like my half-hearted courage like could hurt somebody's feelings, because like she assumes that Sato's feelings are very hurt by this, and they probably are. Though Sato doesn't like give much of an indication. Because she's crazy. But like, yeah, they probably are pretty hurt. Like, but she also assumed that this would be the case, like that Shoko would not be able to like stand this. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And like Shoko doesn't even know the whole story.
Oh no, she doesn't even know
about
half
Shio.
of
Like
this,
she can't even
this
accept
fucked
her
up bullshit.
aunt.
Yeah. But then like after Shoko leaves, you find out like the genius of what Sato has done. So like she has this like arrangement with her aunt where she's moved out. She lives upstairs now with Shio, but like keeps the aunt downstairs so that like if she has to, she has like a cover. That's like genius.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's
then next,
twisted also.
well, but it's genius. I mean, it's a good way to cover up your abduction of a small child. But then later you find out like that was kind of incidental. Like she didn't plan it necessarily, but it worked out well for her, didn't it?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
The beginning of the next episode is
It's really good. It's really good. And okay, like up to this point, this show, I was like, this is a piece of trash. These 2 episodes, for some reason, had some decent stuff in them where I was like, that's interesting. That's an interesting statement. It's still a fucked up anime, and it's still a piece of twisted trash, but like, the fuck?
Right?
Okay. So,
At least it has some interesting, thought-provoking things, though, like about it. And this episode is definitely one of those. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you start out the next episode 8, from the perspective of this guy who is seeing her like before the rest of this anime happened. And so it's before she met Shio. And you can tell she's very empty, but she's a lot more calm than she is now. I would say she's better, honestly. Like, I know she is in love now, but like it's almost like that love fucked her up like even more. Whereas she's just kind of empty.
You can tell that it's like her aunt's crazy ideas about like what love is have super screwed her up.
Yes.
But like she doesn't exactly accept her aunt's idea of love because like she's clearly trying to find love. Like she's going around like dating a bunch of guys like constantly like like you said like slutting around like whatever. And like this painter guy who lives upstairs is just like another in the line of those people, and she's trying to figure out if what she feels for him, what he feels for her, and what any of that means.
Yeah, she's trying
and it's all super weird, right?
Yeah, because, she's trying to learn.
She talks and he doesn't the entire first part of the episode.
Yeah, and so he is a painter, and so he wants to paint her. So she just comes over, and he lives in the same apartment complex as she does. And this is when she's still living with her aunt downstairs. And she would come over and just sit for him, and he would paint her. And she talks, and you just sort of see that she's very empty, and she's looking for love, but she hasn't found it. And like the images that he paints of her are just like beautiful, but like beautiful in that way that some art is, where it's sad, like it's heartbreaking, and that's why it's beautiful. And it's an interesting sort of like interpretation of art, where like it is true that some art is beautiful because it's sad. And you know what I mean? And there's something missing. It's interesting.
Sure.
But yeah, no. And so he's almost finished with this painting of her. And he's like, something is missing. I would love to see her complete. And he's thinking this. And then one day you see her come and she has Shio. So she's like just now found her on the street or something. And we're not really sure like the details. But this is obviously like when she first meets Shio. And he is very upset because it's like almost love at first sight for her. And he sees that she has like found this thing and it has changed her so much. And what he thought he wanted, like of her, like her being complete, he hates it because she's not the same. And it infuriates him so much that he goes to kill the little girl because he's like, I can't take this. And then Sato comes up behind him and like kills him instead, and then takes over his apartment. And like that's the apartment that Shio and her are living in, is his apartment. So like I
took it as he didn't like to see that. He liked the dead look in her eyes before, but now with the Shio, she's got like, she looks happy, and he like doesn't like that.
I don't know if it's like a dead look. I think it's more just like a yearning look. Like she's searching for something. And that is very artistic. and he is an artist.
I really liked the progression of his inner monologue, where
Yes.
like at first, like anytime he's supposedly talking, it's just like a burst of sound represented by like a vertical sound wave. But then later on, like those like sound waves start to form into letters and words, and then like when she brings Shio home, like his thoughts just go crazy. They get louder and like more disjointed and like more it's really, really well done. It like really represents like how crazy he's going, even though he's not like using any words. Like he's just thinking. You're not hearing what he says at all. So like I think this was like probably like the most ambitious like artistic part of the show so far. I think they did a really good job with it. Though it did remind me a lot of One Room.
I thought that too. I did think that, and I was like, "Oh my god, Bcom's gonna say that," and he really did.
It was so funny. I was laughing my ass off. I was like, "Oh, it's a bonus episode of One Room. Hell yeah!"
It's a fucked up episode of One Room that ends in murder.
I know. I kind of wish all the episodes of One Room were like this. I actually kind of think they are. That's my headcanon for One Room. But yeah.
Oh, nice. That's what you don't know behind the scenes. But yeah, no. So.
Yeah.
So now you know kind of like why they live in this apartment, and it's really interesting. Then they go to a scene where Shoko, you know, Sato's friend who just rejected her kind of, and Asahi, the brother of Shio who's looking for her, become like weird friends. Like, I don't know how Shoko is going to handle this dynamic with like her like still caring about Sato, but then also like being attached to Asahi, and like because there's gonna be friction there, and she's gonna have to pick a side, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, I think if Sato finds in any way that like Shoko is teaming up against her or trying to take Shio away from her, like that will be really bad for her, probably. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's gonna go down. And then finally, the last scene of this episode. What the fuck? Sato is encouraging a child molester. It's fucked up. She like goes to Taiyo, and Taiyo has been like repeating to himself like for a while. He's like, "I will be normal. I will go throughout my life like a normal person. I will stop obsessing over children." And he like repeats this over and over and over. And she's like, "You know you want to meet this small child. Look at this sock that I have that is hers. Doesn't it smell like her?"
She just took it off her foot.
Ooh. What the fuck? What the fuck?
It is so ridiculous.
What the fuck? I don't know.
And it's like, yeah, she thinks she needs his helps for some reason to take care of Asahi, who is currently coming after Shio.
She's proved by now, by all the people she's killed in this anime, like, she doesn't need anyone's help to kill someone. So I don't really know why she's like, I really need Taiyo to help me kill someone, so I'm gonna lure him with the bait of the child that I say I love. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me at all. It's fucked up and weird. Also, okay, although I'm pretty sure there was no hope for Taiyo anyway, because like you can't like pray away your child molester tendencies. Like, I'm pretty sure he was fucked anyway, but like it's still weird. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems weird to me that Sato would make a choice to like introduce her to this creepy guy again, because like it doesn't make sense that she would put Shio in any danger. Like, she values Shio above like everything else.
She's not going to. I don't think she will ever let Taiyo see him. I think that this is all ploy. She's going to have Taiyo kill Asahi, and then she's going to be like, "Come see Shio. Yeah, you've earned it. You're the knight," or whatever, because she keeps calling him like the angel's knight when the angel is referring to Shio. And then she'll just take him into some back alley and just murder him.
As many like crazy interactions as Sato has with other people in the show, she's always doing it to like manipulate them to get something that she wants. Whether it's like to get like somebody to stay away from prying into her life, like with the girl who had like the obsession with her, who she just like kisses deeply and like puts her leg between her legs and like just like forces her against the locker, and she's like, "I love you, I've always loved you," and like then she's just like, but also don't ever fucking ask about my life again. She's always manipulating people. Same with the teacher. She's manipulating him, using him, like his like whims against him. So she's smart. She's definitely smart, but we'll see how long she lasts. We'll see.
Yes.
All right. So we've come to the midway point. So why don't we take a word from our fellow podcasters?
Yeah.
Okay. And here's another tasty morsel from the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast.
Some fan service.
Yeah. I mean, it worked pretty well in Dragon Ball. Do you remember those scenes with Bulma?
Bulma was running around in a bunny outfit for the longest time.
I know. Akira Toriyama.
We can get the Dragon Balls, and then we can make our wish. Bulma's panties.
Did Oolong wish for Bulma's panties, or did you just wish for a pair of panties?
I think it was just a pair of panties. I'm sure it's different in the Japanese than it is in the English dub. But, yeah, he just wished for panties. They're probably used.
As always, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Trash Panda Anime. You can find us on our website, tpwapodcast.com. You can also find us on assorted sites like SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes.
Warning, the following clip may contain descriptions of explicit behavior conducted by Bishi boys.
Now, that's not to say he didn't get physical. Quite the opposite, in fact. Our boy Kent was researching all the ways to please a woman.
Pulled his lever.
And he put some of that learning into effect, if you know what I mean. Let me give you a scene from the show that I really quite liked. My research shows that women find it pleasurable if men place their fingers here, then apply some pressure and begin to rub that area. Do you enjoy that? Is it giving you pleasure? Please respond. I need verbal... Please respond. I gotta get this out. Get it out. Please respond. I need verbal confirmation that this is something that you enjoy. Heroine sadly tells him that it's hurting her as he's rubbing her too vigorously. Ow. Despondent Ken removes his fingers and looks at them. Perhaps I applied too much pressure. Don't worry, Kent. Head pats are difficult to master.
And that was Yata from the Reanimator Pod. If you want to hear more, you can check out our website. That's reanimatorpod.com. We release new episodes every Monday.
Don't drop that. Don't drop that.
Hey. Do you like wrestling?
Whether it be in a bar, an arena, some weird place in Asia, or in a stadium?
Or the occasional penis plex?
Well, if any of these things might tickle your fancy, anywhere in between, from penises to wrestling, you can come and check out our podcast.
Our podcast name is Smack It Down. We talk all things WWE, New Japan, anything else in between.
I'm Jay Silver.
I'm Corey Gold.
And we look forward to you joining us.
Happy Rusev Day.
Happy Rusev Day indeed.
And we're back.
Unfortunately.
From outer space. Okay, so...
With that sad look upon
show.
your face. Should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key.
All right, don't sing anymore because copyright.
Okay.
That was about 5 seconds. I think we're good.
It's a cover. It's okay.
It's a cover, yes. It's our own interpretation. So Revue Starlight is a very musical show as well that airs on Saturdays. Episode 7 is called Nana Daiba, or Daiba Nana. It's a banana-centric episode, as you would think. It starts off just after... So it's a flashback. Actually, both of these episodes are flashbacks that we're going to cover today. So it starts off in the previous year's 99th Seisho Festival performance of Starlight, where everyone thanks Banana for being like a banana. She's nourishing and supportive and sweet throughout their preparation for their performance. And Banana really seems to embrace this role of being the big sister to the rest of the group, even though she's very talented herself. And while everyone else leaves for vacation, after like the 99th performance. Banana stays at school, and Juna, who is her close friend, is also there. She has made a promise to herself that she won't go home until she graduates. She's like super serious about it. But then like once the school year begins, like you see Banana, like she just seems intent on like documenting everything. Like she's taking pictures with her smartphone and like supporting everyone. And like the reality is that her and Juna's first act that semester was to remove the name tags from the lockers of like these 2 second-year girls who just dropped out, because it is like a pretty cutthroat like music program. And so later, auditions start for the 100th Seisho festivals. And Maya like pulls Banana aside and she tells her like, I won't respect you if you don't give the auditions your all, because like you just want it to be everyone's banana, is the way she puts it. Like she just wants to be friends with everyone and support everyone. Like she doesn't want to make anybody feel bad or feel sad that they're like missing out or that they lost. But like Maya's like, no, that's not gonna fly. So Banana's basically like resigned to the fact that she feels the performance they gave in the 99th Seisho Festival, the last year, was like their peak. Like she personally believes that their performance cannot be topped. And so she just feels no motivation to try to get better for the 100th performance. And so it's at that point when she's thinking about this that she gets summoned by the draft for an audition. And he tells her that the review stage reacts to like the dazzling performance of the stars who perform on it. And Banana's like, yeah, I don't give a shit about any of that. I really don't care. Like I did a dazzling performance already. And so the draft tells her, though, if she wins the audition, she can stand not just on this stage, but on any stage that she wants, even one from the past. So that gets her going, because she's like, I could return to that stage where I was at my peak and where everybody was happy. And so since this is a possibility, Banana starts taking things super seriously. Like she has a review showdown against Maya, and it's like in this blinding yellow banana colored light. And she like beats the crap out of Maya Tendo, who is like, as we know, is like the position 0, like the top star usually. And her wish is to get sent back in time a year and to just build up to the 99th Seisho Festival again and do that performance. And then it just starts this endless cycle, like Endless 8 from Haruhi Suzumiya, basically, where like she goes through like the whole motions of like doing the 99th performance, living out the whole next year to the 100th audition, beating everybody else, and then wishing to roll things back again. And like the way she thinks about it is that like she's protecting everyone from like sadness of failing their performance just by repeating the year over and over again, like Groundhog Day or something. It's like more like Groundhog Year, I guess. Things finally change, though, and this is the end of the episode, because Hikari shows up, who was not involved in the cycle before. And so that changes things, like, and we'll find out why next episode. And like, but at the end of the episode, like Banana does this like creepy turn to the camera where she's like, I want Hikari to be in my repeat performances too. It's kind of creepy. I liked this episode, because Banana is just like she's been like this like cutesy character till now, you know, right? And
You're
like
the Banana King, Charlie.
Yeah. It's been like hard to take her seriously until now, and now it's like, oh no, I take her super seriously. Like she's kind of nuts.
Put a banana in your ear. A banana in my ear.
There's more to her than we thought.
A banana.
I can sing this whole song if you want me to.
So
right to your favorite
did you guys have any thoughts about Banana, finding out more about her in this episode?
No, it just made me think of Charlie the Unicorn more.
That's fair. That's fair. And what about you, Kat? Anything?
Nah, I mean, it's fine. That's all right.
I think you're killing us both by making us watch this show, Bcom.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't tell these girls apart. Like they're all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just have idol
I was
syndrome.
having a big conversation with a few Reddit friends today on Discord about like the characters in Revue Starlight, and we were all like, yeah, they're kind of shallow. Like, they're pretty shallow characters, and like at this point it feels like the show has like a few themes, but it's not nearly as deep as like a lot of us had hoped it would become as it kept going. Like, I thought this banana thing was interesting, at least, because like she's like literally turning back time to repeat the festival, which is like a kind of weird event that has taken place. But I guess it makes sense, since there are like wishes that are being granted here that like magical things could happen. But yeah, even with that, it's still, I don't know. It's not grabbing me right now. And so moving on to the next episode, Towards the Light, it's basically piggybacking off of this episode. So it's a flashback episode that starts with Hikari. And it explains basically how she came to interrupt Banana's cycle. Like, we get some kind of repetitive scenes in the beginning of this episode, I thought, because like it's just more information we already knew about how like her and Karen made the promise as kids that they would return, or that, like, you know, Hikari would go off to London, which Karen calls Don Don, because she's a stupid little girl. And like when she becomes a star, like she'll return and they'll perform in Starlight together. And like, as we knew all this, like Hikari goes to like the Royal Academy of Theatrical Actors in London, that pushes her really hard. But what we didn't know is that while she's in London, she gets an audition notification from the Draft in London. And it was kind of funny because like when the Draft like shows up, he starts talking in English because they're in London. And then he's like, oh, let's switch to Japanese. That seems better. But it was kind of like a funny little note. Mm-hmm. She performs in the audition of Fate. Because she's been talking about how like Karen and her are fated to like perform Starlight together. And like she loses to like some British girl from like the London school, who we don't even get to really know. Her name is Judy. That's all we know about her. And like when she returns back to her normal stage performances after the review, she's lost that like special shine or whatever they call it, like the emotion and like the will to perform that she used to have. And like not only that, like she weighs herself on a scale and she's lost like physical weight. Like she talks about it like it's the weight of one of her kidneys is just completely missing after this audition, basically implying like she lost her soul or something. And so Hikari calls the Draft back, and she's like in this museum in front of a skeleton of a Draft, as she's calling him. It's like creepy Draft skeleton. And he meets her and she confronts him, saying that like, you didn't mention that like to become the top star, you have to like offer up like what's special about you as a performer. And the Draft is like kind of surprised like that she has like any determination left. Like he thought he basically would have like sucked her dry. It's like, he's like, you need some, yes, it's true, you need some fuel to perform in these auditions. But since she has so much determination, he's like, okay, I'll give you a second chance. Your next audition will be in Japan as the stage girl who has lost everything. And also the Draft is like giraffe spreading in this scene. I don't have a better term for it. His like legs are all like splayed out to the sides. I was like, he's man spreading, but I was like, no, he's draft spreading. Okay. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I don't know why this is the case, but as he leaves, like the Draft like mumbles to himself as he's leaving, like, well, as long as Hikari knows that someday she's going to have to fight that girl, which is clearly referring to Karen. And so Hikari after all this, comes to Japan. It's like the 6th day of auditions for the 100th Seisho Festival, and she faces off against Banana in an audition called the Revue of Solitude. And Banana is like pretty arrogant during this fight, and honestly it's pretty one-sided to start off because Banana has like these 2 like full-size swords, and Hikari is fighting with this like tiny little knife that is like attached to like a rope or something, and she's like barely holding off Banana. And Banana's like just lose, you idiot. Like, my repeat performances are going to protect you and all of the other girls from like failure. Like, just accept your loss. And despite all of what like the Draft and Banana are telling her, Hikari chooses to believe in Karen and her dream of winning Starlight by shining together. And this causes her to basically bloom into a new hero, because there's like literally an Act 2 curtain drop that happens during this fight. And it's like the the Tokyo Tower where she made her promise with Karen like falls upside down from the sky and like hits into some like pool of water, causes a huge tidal wave, and there's like an Act 2, The Blooming of a New Hero subtitle, and then she lifts her little dagger, it gets hit by a bunch of spotlights and it powers up, and then she's able to use this like new magical power to take down Banana, and so Banana, that breaks the cycle. Obviously she can't like make the same wish to return to last year, and she warns Hikari that like, the script for Starlight calls for it to end in a tragedy, and you're going to have to fight Karen in the end and part with her. And so, yeah, that's where it ends off with this episode. It was kind of interesting, but like the more I'm watching this show, like in the beginning, we talked about how it's kind of like a mix of influences, like Revolutionary Girl Utena or like an Ikuhara type show mixed with like Love Live and like a goofy idol show. And a lot of like all this talk about like shine and how like the most important thing is not to lose your shine or to become the top idol or star. It's like, it's feeling more and more like a Love Live show than it is like an in-depth character study. And I'm not the biggest fan of Love Live. I know a lot of people love it, but like I was hoping for this one to be like a bit more deep than Love Live, and it's not been. So that's where I'm left a bit disappointed right now. Though I'm hoping it picks up. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time with like the different different girls, because like there's not enough character depth for me to always care between them.
There's not a lot to dig into with a lot of them are fairly tropey characters. There's like a few who stand out. Like I think Banana really stands out now, especially after that episode. But like Hikari kind of stands out. Karen, like I could care less about because she's like the typical idol lead who is just happy-go-lucky. But yeah, I don't know. And Leo, you had a comment.
I said watching this at 2 times speed doesn't help.
Try 3 times. I don't know.
I might have to.
I don't know how you guys fucking watch anything at 2 or 3 times speed. That's ridiculous.
I usually don't.
I usually don't because it messes with like timing of like sound certain lines, and sound like that. But I had to get through this somehow.
I can't do that. It just.
If you can read subtitles fast enough, it's sometimes not that bad to watch at like 2 times speed, especially for like a really long show. But I'll usually just watch normal speed.
Yep. So, unfortunately, about the next show, Cells at Work, it wasn't that great either, but still better. Yeah. Episode 7 and 8 weren't the greatest, but they were still like informative and you learned stuff. So.
7 was awkward.
7 has a weird point, and I'll get to it. So the NK cell starts her fight. It's just coming right off episode 6. Starts her fight with the cancer cell, and it's not really going that well. And like meanwhile, white blood cell and killer T cell discover a room where there was experiments going on or something. They figure out the cells here aren't doing what they're supposed to and have turned into cancer cells. That's when they then get attacked by like a mob of them, and eventually NK cell gets literally thrown into the fight, and all 3 square off against the more evolved cancer cell, and then they immediately get their asses kicked by them. Then we go back to Red Cell, who is currently poking a platelet's cheek to amuse herself when they notice a lot of food being taken to the housing district. I feel like Bcom rewound that part like 3 or 4 times.
So I actually didn't, and I'll tell you why, is because somebody on Reddit like a day or 2 ago had like the top comment, and they made a website where if you go to this website, it's a picture of that platelet's face, and if you click on her face, it pokes her. You just click as much as you want.
So that's what you've been doing last 2 days?
And it got like 10 times gilded on Reddit. Like, it was so ridiculous. I was like, oh my god, the internet. Always there.
But anyway, she notices that like there's a ton of food going to the housing district, and what's happening here is called inflammatory cytokine, and it's the cancer cells using nutrients of the body to multiply faster. It also imbalances the body, and it's not obviously not good. And then now we get back to the story of the cancer cell, of why he is doing what he is, and You know, I'm going to let Bcom explain this one, and I completely agree with him. It just did not sit well with me either. So
yeah, so they made this kind of awkward attempt to make the viewers of the show feel bad for the plight of cancer cells, which came off really weird because, like, I know the whole show is like giving sentience to like non-sentient things like cells and stuff, right? But like they portray these cancer cells, like one as like this boy who used to have like a childhood friend who was killed because he was like different, right? Like, because cancer cells are just different, right? And so why should we kill them?
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Like, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I do agree with that, because I was like, well, but like, there's no message there. Like,
yeah, like it's like, what are you trying to say? It's like, yeah, there's plenty of actual people who are like oppressed in the world, but like cancer cells being oppressed is not something I'm gonna get behind.
It's like we should all live with cancer so that they don't have to die. No, that doesn't work. Like,
I'm sure all of us know people who have died from cancer, like who are related to us or like friends of our families, or just people we know, and it's affected us. And it's like, to ask us to feel bad for these cancer cells was like such an absurd.
To make you want to sympathize with cancer is just like, I can't. It's impossible for me.
Yeah. So that was just like an awkward element of this episode for sure. Yeah.
So anyways, the rest of the body has gotten wind of something strange going on in the housing district, and they all show up and like surround the cancer cells. Killer T cell and NK cell have like a moment of like camaraderie and understanding, to quickly be followed by the NK cell tricking Killer T cell to step into like a stream of one of the B cells, and then she just falls on the ground and just starts laughing hysterically. She's dying. But what's actually happened here is something your body does when you actually experience laughter. It causes neuropeptides to bind themselves to NK cells, and actually revitalizes them. So now that the NK cells revitalize, she attacks the cancer cell and mortally wounds him. And then the show has one last attempt to try and make us sympathize one more time with the cancer cell. Sigh.
It wouldn't let it go. They had to bring it up again.
It's
like,
so weird.
White blood cell tells cancer cell to say his last words before he finishes them off, and he says something like, God, I don't even remember. I blocked it out because I was like, I'm not going to sympathize with it. Just stop.
Do you think that like the people who wrote this, because I remember you wrote like, who wrote this? Do you think they like got drunk on too much like mango vodka or something, and were like, you know what?
Maybe.
I've never thought of cancer cells being sympathetic. Like, they're just being them. And they're like laying on the writing room floor, like drunk out of their mind. Like, they have a deadline. They can't meet it. This is what they come up with. They're like toasted.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, they wanted to like make an allegory to like people who are discriminated against based on just like some aspect of like how they were born, but
and like they had this idea, and then they went with cancer cells and then realized it didn't work, and they're like, well, we're out of time, so we got to go with it anyways, I guess. I don't know.
I'm telling you,
anyways, there's also
these 2 episodes were made by someone drunk. This happened.
So, and just to finish off this episode, there's just like this cute little scene where like white blood cell thanks to red blood cell for summoning everybody, and she blushes, and it's just, for everybody who's shipping them. But
the next episode especially is one big ship fest between them.
Like, so that one, episode 7, like it had an idea. It was a weird, like trippy idea. Like it reminds me of something that I would think at like 2 a.m. Because like I do have some thoughts like that at like 2 a.m. But like,
and then the next day, upon further review, you're like, no,
that's dumb.
They don't make it through like a month-long animation cycle and like shoot air.
Exactly. But episode 8 is like that time of the night, like after that, where you no longer have coherent thoughts. Like they're not even like weird, but like interesting. They're just like a single, like a couple words together. Like someone like wrote at like 5 a.m. after they wrote that one at like 2. It's been a few more hours. They write on a piece of paper white blood cell stalks red blood cell, and then they pass out. And then the animators come in the morning at like 7, and they have this piece of paper, and it just has those like 5 words on it, and they're like, well, I mean, this is what we have, and that's what they
Roll
made
with it.
Yeah, that's what happened. So that's basically the plot of episode 8 is like the red blood cell. Since she's a ditzy bitch, she gets lost for like a whole episode. She runs into some spiky, weird germ thing, almost dies. The white blood cell saves her. It's a boring cliche. Red blood cell is like, I need to do better. I'm gonna do better. And she decides she's going to try, and then immediately fails terribly and gets lost like 50 times. And the white blood cell is like, I clearly can't trust her not to be a danger to herself and others, so I need to casually stalk her. And so he does, throughout the whole day, casually stalk her and protect her from herself and protect others from her, because that is needed in this situation. And it's terrible.
This is a great synopsis.
It's terrible. It's a mess. You do find out at one point, like, they sneak in like little informational bits that like I didn't know, but like I don't know if I care that I know. Like you find out that red blood cells only eat like sweets, like they only eat glucose, which I would like that.
They don't have mitochondria.
If I could only eat sweets, I would, without having like diabetes or something, I would do that because I love sweets. But like, you know, yeah, no. Then she goes to like the heart and the lungs, and they try to explain like how they work, but like my brain, I don't care enough about how they work. So like when they start explaining it, I just glaze over. What I got from that,
what worked?
How the heart. The circulation of the heart and the lungs work.
The chambers of the heart.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think it's interesting. I remember learning that all in biology class.
What happened in my brain?
Did a really good job of explaining it.
It did, but what happened in my brain when that started happening, because I don't care about biology enough, was like they started explaining it. And the way they explained it was very creative, right? Like they did it like they were in a theme park or something. But like all I heard was like wah 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 wah.
Charlie Brown parents talking. Yeah.
I was like, okay, they're explaining it. That's good. You know, so they explain that, and then I don't know. Like at the end, they make this dumb point that makes no sense. Kind of like the point in the previous episode, where like another white blood cell comes up to like main white blood cell coon or whatever the fuck you want to call him, and is like, we white blood cells can't associate with other cells because we're assassins. And like part of me was like, this is some Lone Ranger bullshit, and then another part of me is like, this is maybe, I mean, I know like white blood cells, like it's not supposed to, it's kind of weird, like the white blood cells have to only associate with the cells, but that just might just be me thinking too much into it because I live in America.
So I like two things a lot about the ending part. Like, I think they're both from the scene where white blood cell is talking to like the killer T cell or whatever his name is, and like white blood cell is just like, well, red blood cell just happens to stink at not losing her way. Like, we're bad at things too. And like when he said that line, all I could hear was like Ryoko Matoi from Kill la Kill just like cringing really hard. Like, I also stink at not losing my way.
Don't lose your way.
I got so irritated with this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I liked was Killer T Cell called white blood cell a candy ass. And I was like, either he really said that, or the translator has been watching a lot of like Attitude Era wrestling and is a big fan of The Rock. The Rock always used to call people a candy ass.
Yummy.
Well, the whole thing about that final scene was the killer T cell being jealous that everybody else can socialize so easily and he can't. So like that was the joke.
It didn't. It didn't fly very well though. It wasn't a good joke. Let's be honest. And
also, the meta joke is that they're having this like big romantic stalker session as they pass through the heart.
Oh, I know. I thought about that. There are points where like the platelets like interact with like the red blood cell and the white blood cell, and I'm kind of like, oh, is this supposed to be like some cutesy bonding parenting bullshit? Is this what people want to see? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, that was cute.
Yeah,
it was a shit
was
episode. It was terrible. It was like a pile of fluff. It had no meaning.
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Both of these episodes were probably like both of my least favorite episodes of Cells at Work so far.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely
Hopefully
both
they pick it
these.
up, back up, because like middle of the season, this is like where the bad ideas get thrown out.
Yeah.
Like the ones from 5 a.m. like we said. So yeah.
Yep.
But you know what doesn't have bad ideas? You know what has extremely fucking
Yes!
good and funny ideas?
Here comes that good
is
shit.
Asobi Asobase.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Jeez. Thank
we have to
God I
read the
saved
episode
this with
titles.
a lock.
Oh,
You
thank
know,
God.
Leo,
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm getting a
You're
little
welcome,
bit
guys.
tired of your
You're welcome,
bullshit.
Kat.
I'm getting a little tired of your bullshit in this episode and your little gloating sessions. I'm gonna need you to tone it down. All right.
That's because you're
Hey.
a woman. You're a woman of terror, Kat.
When
That's
I'm
why.
right,
So-
I'm right. What can I say?
Oh, you fucking bastard. I will whoop your ass. I live in the same
So
state as
episode
you,
7
and I'm not afraid. All right, let's go.
Is called Phantom Thieves Pass Club, Woman of Terror, Weirdo Go, Booby Tragedy. Sure. In the first part, oh my god, these two episodes are so good. So the
They're
girls
fantastic.
are bribed by that Aozora, who we still aren't
No,
100%
we
sure
are.
if Aozora is
we
a girl
are
or a guy.
sure now, Bcom. We know.
I think we are kind of sure now.
Yes.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
I have that in my notes. So Aozora is like bribing them into stealing something called the banana papers. God, bananas are a huge part of this episode.
Banana,
like
banana.
From the student council office, these are like the Mean Girls like diary from the movie Mean Girls, like all the ways, like all the deep like dark secrets of like other students collected in like a little diary basically. So Olivia, like to bribe them, she gives Olivia like a little sumo like wrestler figure. She gives Kasumi a book on English for dummies, and Hanako's like, I'm not that cheap. I won't be bought off so easily. And she just like literally gives her a bottle of nail polish from the dollar store. And she's like, yes,
Pretty much.
gateway to the popular girls. So Kasumi has the idea to like send out a warning like the Phantom Thieves in Persona 5. And Hanako adds to the idea with like, what if we trained a stag beetle?
This is so fucking
This is
weird and crazy
weird.
that like it works so well.
It's
she
weird.
trains this stag beetle to the music from Rocky, like clearly Rocky music, but like a little bit twisted to be like not copyright. And it's like gonna help them steal the papers. Why? I don't know, but it works, like Leo says. So the office is locked.
You know what the worst
What?
part about this whole scene is? Guess what she's fucking wearing? Guess what Hanako is
That
wearing?
stupid
Oh,
costume.
it's the devil bee
She
costume. is
promised
back
she
again.
never put that shit on again. What does she do? She puts it on again. I don't know.
It's her Phantom Thief disguise, obviously. She needed to reuse it.
I guess.
So, also, she
already-
calls the stag beetle Fantoma. So, like, they go to steal the papers, and this stag beetle, who has been training like Sylvester Stallone, has like instead of 6 like beetle legs, now has 2 jacked human arms and human legs, just pure muscle because of its Rocky training, and it like picks the lock to the office for them.
It's
And
insane.
then this part actually continues into the second part where they get the papers, but like the student council president comes back because she forgot like a homework thing on her desk. And all of the girls are hiding under the desk. And the president noticed like, the chair is like kind of out of place. And then like one of the girls like, like moves the chair like a little bit, which freaks her out, obviously. She like runs away.
What the fuck? Like, who's like, oh, we need to move the chair.
But like the best part is when you see the girls under the desk, and Hanako for some reason has positioned herself like horizontally, so her butt is just directly in Olivia's
they had to
face.
scoot the chair in, so she had to get on it, so her butt's right in Olivia's face, dude.
Yes.
And that noise, that the voice acting. Okay, go. Keep going, Bcom.
Like Olivia's like, I hope she doesn't fart. And then like Hanako's just like, my butt wants to breathe right now. Like who the fuck even thinks that? Like in those words.
But it's such a Hanako phrase that you're just like, oh yeah.
It's like that's
and she's
something
like,
a
well, if I
Hanako
release
would
a
think.
silent fart,
Yep.
it won't be so bad. But of course, silent but deadly. I was actually even thinking silent but deadly, and then like the show actually said it in the subtitles. I was surprised.
Oh my god, she does that. And the voice actor for Olivia, she goes like I died. I had to pause it because I couldn't stop laughing so hard I couldn't read the fucking subtitles.
There are multiple things in these 2 episodes that made me pause laughing so hard. It was so good. So they get out of there. They decide to read, like, we should just read these banana papers, right? Before we give it back to Azora. Like, we should find out what's in there. And, like, basically everything that's in there is about how they've ruined various people's lives, burned down, like, cafes and shit. And, like, it's just all of the shit they've done. And they're like, well, let's keep reading a little bit more, just see if there's anything on other people. And then the next thing is, like, there's Olivia has a spicy smell coming from her armpits and like
the
between
area
her breasts.
between her boobs or something.
And she starts freaking out, like, I thought nobody knew. And then, like, they have to reassure her, like, don't worry, your body odor is under the threshold of the Ministry of Odor's action index, so you'll be okay.
Which is totally made up.
Yeah, like, if her odor was worse, like, a Ministry of Odor would come take care of her or something.
In all honesty, that needs to be a thing.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Does, especially at like conventions.
Oh my gosh. Or like, you know that person like in your class that just never showers?
Yeah.
And like you could call the Ministry of Odor on them, like, and they would just come take them away.
That reminds me, in English class in high school, they had us write a paper on like something that bothers you or you think should be fixed or something like that. And I wrote about personal hygiene, and my teacher singled out the goddamn paper and read it to the class.
Oh no,
because she was like, I so strongly agree with this, and I'm like, thank you for not saying
that's
it was mine. She didn't use my name, but she's like, I just really like this one.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So go on.
So it's funny because like they reassure Olivia that she doesn't smell so bad, and then they're like, let's just go get ice cream from Raskin Bobbins, which is obviously Baskin Robbins.
Dude, I was just like, immediately as soon as that happened, I went to the Google Doc and I was like, Raskin Bobbins. This is gotta be mentioned.
I'm gonna call it that from now on, I feel like, in real life. And
Wait
they
for
just
somebody to
leave
correct
the
you.
they leave the book on the desk. They just don't care about it anymore. And so Aozora's like, I bet those stupid girls left the book. So she comes and gets the book.
Well, she's
and she
like,
opens and it's up.
Well,
right?
she/he at this point, because this is when you know.
Yes,
she's like, girls are so dumb, and that's when you're like, oh yeah, it's a boy.
Mm-hmm. He tears out the 2 pages that are clearly about how she is a he.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I told you, Bcom.
Decides like, I'll use this to blackmail the Pastimers Club again later.
I told you, didn't I?
Yep, you were right. You were totally right. Just not right about that one person in Eurocamp. You were so wrong that time.
you win some, you lose some, okay? But this time I was right. So.
Okay, so this third part had one joke that absolutely just destroyed me. And it's probably not the one you'll expect. So Hanako is alone in the classroom and starts making crazy faces because there's no one there to stop her, so why not? And then Kasumi's like, oh, I don't even want to go in and deal with this bitch. She's so crazy right now. But then like Hanako's like, oh, Kasumi left her laptop out in her desk. And like this freaks out Kasumi because she's like, my epic BL novels on there. And so the joke that just literally killed me, because I'm a stupid nerd, and like I was laughing at this for like literally 5 minutes, is Hanako opens the laptop and says like, oh man, she's using Windows XP. Kasumi really takes good care of her stuff. And I'm like, I'm a computer nerd. I'm just like, nobody uses Windows XP anymore. And I just love the way Hanako said it, like, Windows XP is so awesome.
Well, it doesn't have a cult following. It's mostly, most people think of it as like the best Windows that ever was.
Yeah, but it's not even like supported anymore by Windows.
Yeah, it's
like,
not.
It doesn't get security updates, anything. So it just cracked me up. And then like the main joke of the scene you're actually supposed to laugh at is that like Hanako starts reading Kasumi's BL novel.
Oh my god. Yes.
I like the notes to the viewers on the screen from the director of the show that says, please enjoy with this imagery extracted from Hanako's measly imagination. Because like Hanako's like imagining this like meeting between like, I don't know, volleyball club members in like a storeroom or something.
Well, he like, the older club members like, I'm locking you in here and I'm going to tape you up with this, which is actually a thing that happens fairly often in like BL porn. And but then the fucking tape, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is
the tape gets like stuck to his tongue,
yeah,
and that's where it gets cut off. And I was like, I need Kat to explain this to me. I don't even know what this is.
I feel like they're supposed to be saying that Kasumi has some sort of creepy like weird fetish for tape, and that's what's going on, because like that's not a thing. Like, so I think the whole joke is supposed to be
appropriately weird.
Like like the scene should have gone one way, but then it just goes in this strange direction that doesn't make any sense. But it's good.
So like Kasumi like wants to know what Hanako thinks of her novel. Like Hanako puts down the novel, like shuts the laptop and is like, that was really fucking weird.
I think she just got like bored with it, right?
Yeah, well, she was kind of like weirded out also. She's like, maybe I need to throw up now or something. I don't know. And like she feels dirty. And then like Kasumi comes in and she's like, I have to know. And she's like, you read it, didn't you? And Hanako's like,
nope.
That was what?
No, doesn't she say like, no, I didn't read that at all? And she's like, you read it.
Yeah, well, she's at first. But then like Kasumi gets it out of her and she's like, yeah, that was kind of weird. And then they just, because they both feel so awkward, they both just start writhing around on the ground and just like screeching, and you can hear like gunshots going off in the background. Like machine gun fire, as if it's like PTSD instantly. And then like Olivia comes in and they both instantly beg Olivia to just kill them both, like just please put them out of their misery because of this. So God, that was killing me. Finally, the last part, booby tragedy. So all of the girls are like making their own clothes for like home ec class. Like,
loved this.
What, do you identify with this?
Oh my god, yes.
My notes say, I'm sure Kat's got some tips/stories about the bad side of having big boobs.
So this is totally a thing, because like I can't wear button-up shirts. Like either the button-up shirt is too big for the rest of my like upper body, or it is too small for my boobs. So like you have the option of wearing an undershirt and only buttoning it halfway. Or you have the option of wearing a big ass fucking, like buying a bigger one and like tailoring it. But it doesn't make sense to me that the one she made herself is too small. Because like that would seem like the best possible scenario. You like made a custom one for yourself.
Yeah, she would have known better.
She misjudged her bust size, I think.
I guess.
Like, I'm not that big.
You are, girl. You are.
And then Hanako like offers to help fix it, and like she just continuously makes it worse. She adds like nipples to it, and she adds like full breasts to it. And then they're like, well, there's like a new fashion trend of like wearing it like as a bottom, and like they show a picture of like a model like who tied the arms of her shirt around her waist like as like a normal person would do. But they're like, no, it's like you wear it like a skirt, and so she wears it as a skirt. Honestly, like I honestly think it looked pretty good as a skirt. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I thought that looked pretty good.
Okay.
I was into that look. And then, like, they try it on backwards, all these weird things. It just gets worse and worse. And then she's like, I'll help you fix your stupid
yukata or whatever.
Yukata that Hanako made. She's like, snip, snip. And that's where it ends. And the after credits scene, the puppet scene, was a funny shout out to Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, was
because they're playing like red light, green light, and they're like sneaking around in a box, and then like they get spotted, and like there's an exclamation point over one of their heads, and they're like Snake when they die, and I was like, oh, they made fun of Metal Gear Solid. That's funny.
Okay, I wondered because I was like, this is referencing something that I'm not getting.
Yeah,
it's totally Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. But man, I mean, the voice actors have been great through this whole show, but just like, I don't know, for this one, they really stood out to me, and it's not really one of the things I focus on. So I looked them up, and they really, all but one of them hadn't really done much yet. They were all still very early in their careers. But
it's done like a couple shows,
Yeah, but like, man, the fear or the panic coming from their voices is so convincing and so good. And like, I would love to be in the sound booth with these, because they're just like full on acting these out, and like just the videos of them recording this would be so entertaining.
I hope they're doing it's like some extra material. A lot of shows like Konosuba has like all those radio shows and stuff that eventually get posted to YouTube later. I hope they were doing some of that stuff, because I haven't seen it yet, but that seems like the kind of show they would do it with to promote the show.
It would be so. Oh, and I would watch it all. It'd be so freaking
I would
good.
Definitely watch it. So
is that it for that? You guys want to move on to the next
one?
That
episode. Yeah.
All right. So episode 8, gotta catch 'em all. Guess what we're referencing? Divine Revelation in the Evil Sugo Roku. So Olivia's playing this game called Bacteria Go.
This is the best parody. It's so good. Oh my god.
Okay, so her phone is also super high tech and can actually in real life detect bacteria on stuff with the camera. And she like thinks all the bacteria is cute and starts to find all kinds of like Hanako and her stuff. And the best one is she has this writing mat, and it's got like a boy band on it, and she's like, why would this ever have germs on it? I love it so much. And you know how they do? They rub something they love on their face. And then Olivia points her phone at it, and she finds fecal matter on it. And then Hanako suddenly has this memory of her cat rubbing its butt on it, and she's like, I thought it was cute at the time, but I probably should have made him stop. This is like a cat owner. You caught your cat doing some questionable shit before. You're like,
Yep.
And then they decide to look at Kasumi stuff, and it's just like completely bacteria free. She's like, oh, it's because I sterilized my desk with alcohol. And they're like, what the hell, woman?
This is why I see people who don't have cats, and they think that cat paws are really cute. And they're like, when you press their paws, and I'm like, you realize their paws have been like deep in shit and cat litter. And then you're touching them, and then you're touching everything. Oh.
And then you got cats like mine that like to sit in your computer chair, and they pick out the cat litter in their paws. So there's always cat litter in my goddamn computer chair.
Yep.
So at the end, Olivia leaves her like phone on the desk, and Hanako picks it up and asks what the exclamation marks are as she's pointing at Olivia, and they're right on her armpits. And Olivia's like, "Oh, it's a hotspot for bacteria," and it shows. And it's like, I mean, there's a lot of bacteria there. And she gets excited, and she's like, "Where is it?" And she just kind of like points up slightly toward her face
to the ceiling.
And then she gives it back to Olivia, and she points it at her, and she's like, "Oh, you have fecal matter on your face."
Oh, no.
Oh man.
Oh, jeez. And that's the first part. On to the second part. Apparently the girls had all went like clothes shopping earlier, and Hanako bought this wacko pony dress thing that rivals her Devil Bee outfit. And like she's at home looking at it, and she's like, this is kind of weird. Why did they say it looked good on me? So she calls Kasumi, who was always giving her positive reinforcement, and asks her why. She said the dress looked nice at the shop. And like Hanako's memory of it is like super messed up and whacked out and just doesn't make any sense. So Kasumi's like, It was actually Olivia who said that, and I was in the washroom, but actually it was Olivia in the washroom. So she's like, okay. So she calls Olivia, who wants to see a picture, and she shows it to her, and then she shows it to her brother, and she's like, my brother says it's virgin killing clothes. And Hanako just takes this way too literally. And then like goes on some crazed tangent about the Illuminati and Freemasons killing virgins. And it just, the whole conversation, she's like, should I use a knife? And just insane stuff. Insane
like,
stuff.
why would people want to kill virgins? Is it because they angered God by not propagating the species?
And then I'm like... and then she's at some point like some 96-year-old Indian virgin. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Should I kill all virgins over 97 years old?
Oh, Jesus.
How would I know that they're virgins? And I was like, oh, God damn it. Fucking
oh,
Japan.
my God. And then this final part is just, it's so bonkers. It starts off with Olivia. She's playing a game of memory. You know, it's just where you play the card decks out and you flip over 2 cards at a time and try to get batches. And she does it, but she gets everything done. She does like a flawless board. And like Hanako and Kasumi are just like completely blown away by this. And like they have to sneak out and like they're like, all right, we got to see if she's actually that lucky. So they play a game called Sugoroku, which is just basically a board game. And like every tile has like a penalty. And Hanako made it up. So... And they start off by seeing who goes first by playing paper, rock, scissors. And of course, Olivia wins. And we're like, hey, oh my God. And like she rolls like a 1 and her penalty is to make pig noises. And she like does it. But the other 2 are like, ah, damn it, that looks cute.
Yeah, I like how pissed off she was. She was like, damn, that's cute. Shit, that's cute.
Yeah, Hanako goes, she clicks her tongue.
Yeah.
And Kasumi's like, damn. So Kasumi goes next and she has to act like a dog peeing on a pole, and she's like, can I be a female dog? And Hanako's like, no, you have to. She's all smug about it. She's like, you have to do it like a male dog and lift your leg. So she like does it. She's like, tinkle, tinkle, tinkle.
Yeah, it's like so embarrassing.
So Hanako's turn comes up. And she lands on, you have to get your butt slapped by the other 2. And she just like steals herself. She gets down on all 4s. She's like, all right, do it. And like Olivia hits her and she like makes a weird noise or something like that. And then like Kasumi goes like really easy on her at first, but Hanako is like, no, you must do it right, or it's not, good enough or whatever. But she's like, actually, I was just pretending to act tough. Tee-hee. But like Kasumi is just like, no, you're right. I must do it right. And hits her ass so hard it like starts machine gunning. And she's like, my butt's broken. And then a couple more things happen. Olivia then has to crawl like 1 lap through the hallway on a baby or something, and runs into like the student council president who's like keeps catching up with her because like humans run faster on 2 legs. And then like she's at the end of it, Olivia makes it back to the classroom, and then the student council president's just like running like a fucking crazy asshole through the hallways. And then we go back to Hanako, and she has to sit up like a dog and beg. But then she like misinterprets it as like some kind of sex act for finally being corrected, and it's like a callback to an old episode. I think that was that part, yeah. And then I guess Maida wrote it or something like that. And then Kasumi has to make sounds like a koala. And then when they look it up, koalas don't sound cute. They're like, so she does that. Then Olivia has to do an English tongue twister in front of a teacher, and she tries to do the Peter Piper, picked a pepper, but instead she says, Peter Popsicle Piccolo Peephole Whoa Bazinga Boobies. I don't know why. It just made me crack up. And then Hanako has to do a Sailor Moon impression in front of the teacher. And then at this point, the teacher's like, they want me to play it. Because he's just like, what the fuck is wrong with these children? And then he's like, they want me to play along with them. So then Kasumi has to do a Kamehameha in front of the teacher. Mm-hmm. And he so plays along, but then he like twists his back and bad angle. And then at the end, he's like, I need to go to the nurse's office. Like, he dislocated his lower back. I don't know what they did.
He played too hard.
Yeah. They finally finish the game, and Hanako and Kasumi leave to discuss if Olivia's actually really lucky. And then, like, back in the room, Olivia's like, I was just using magic trick cards, so she like knew what they all were just to mess with them, and she starts laughing about it, and they all think she's psychic. So, and that was that. God, Asobi Asobase was so good these last 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was good,
guys. I mean, Jesus.
One thing I especially liked in that second part, when she's like going on about her crazy rant about virgin killing, she imagines Harajuku as this like Mad Max hellscape full of girls wearing like virgin killing Lolito clothing, just like killing men. And I was just like, the imagery of that was so good. I was laughing my ass off. There was just so much good imagery in this episode. And like Leo was saying, like, the voice acting, just like the screaming that Hanako has to constantly do is so ridiculous. It's really admirable. I hope they don't lose their voices.
Yeah, the voice actor for Kasumi was the one who's had maybe a little bit more famous work. Mm-hmm. Like, she was in... Oh, she was the voice of Mina from Tokage-san.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and she was Akane from Tsukigakure. So she's got kind of 2 big roles there. And then she's got like a supporting character in Hanabido this season also. But other than that, not much. In the other 2, you just don't really. There's a couple just kind of random things. That's
Hanako
about it.
has like a hysterical tone to her voice that is just priceless. Like,
it kills me. Yeah.
It's good.
It killed me that Hanako's voice actor was Keita in Steingate Zero.
Oh, really? Was she?
Because these are 2 totally different characters.
Yeah, completely different.
But I guess they still kind of had the, I wouldn't say Keita's snobby tone, but just like that. Ooh, I don't know how, like a higher, like I'm maybe possibly better than you tone, but it doesn't come off as like really crass in Steins Gate, but it definitely does in
this
Asobi,
one.
because that's who she is. But but like, I'm gonna be keeping track of these voice actors, and even if it's an anime I know I won't like, I want to listen to it just to see how their character sounds in it. So
sure,
that's it.
All right, Kat, won't you take us away with Planet With?
Okay, so we got episode 7, Sirius. So we had like this huge arc close up right in episode 6.
Did you say the title of the show?
Oh, well,
I said Planet With. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
Does that title always sound unfinished to you guys?
No, Leo. But what joke do you want to make?
Because I figured it out.
We know
I think
you
it's supposed to
hate
be
this,
Planet
Leo.
With
It's okay.
Trope.
Planet With Trope? Oh. So funny, Leo.
So funny. Yeah. This is a damn good show, Leo. I don't give a fuck what you say. It's a good show.
No, that's just like when the episode ended, I was like, I gotta say something. Bcom's always gives me shit. If I don't put something in here, I'm like, think of something, and that's all my brain could come up with. I do admit second half is better.
Okay.
That first half, God, I hate it. But okay, go ahead, Kat. Sorry.
Oh, his was fine. So, okay. Soya and Sensei, neither of them have left their bed since the battle at the beginning, and they're probably just hungover again. And so they have this like weird remembrance / flashback scene like they did before. So you find out that Ginkgo is actually the princess of Real. I'm saying that wrong. I know I am. I don't know how those fucking...
No, I think it is pronounced real.
Okay.
Like, they say real in the show. She's the realist.
The realist.
Princess.
Realist real. So Soya's people, the Sirius race, like decided...
They're so serious.
They're so serious.
She's real and they're serious.
Yes. Like,
they were a match made in heaven.
They decided, they're like, you know what? We have this power and we don't have enough resources. We're going to go over there to the real and we're going to take all their shit. And so that's what they were doing when...
We don't put up on any fake shit on Planet Real.
Exactly. And so that's what they were doing when Sensei came and was like, listen, dudes, don't do that. That's not cool. And then as he's like lecturing them and like protecting Ginkgo, the princess of Real, the realist real princess, This is getting old. Oh my god. No, so as he's lecturing them, the serious people are like, oh shit, our planet's being attacked by a dragon. And it's because the dragon realized that they were attacking the real, and he's like, how dare you, I'm gonna kill you all. And so it's all kind of a cascading effect, right? Like, we thought all this was happening like independent, but it was all connected. So Sensei wants to save everyone involved in this. He wants to save the real, the serious, and the dragon. Like, Ginkgo is a telepath, and so like, she decides she wants to go with him because he saved her and like all the people with her, and she's like, I want to help you the way you helped us. And he's like, well, I'm going to save the people who tried to kill you. And she's like, that's fine, because I believe in what you believe in, because you want to save everyone.
Yeah, the real are like, they believe in the evolution of love or whatever. So
well,
she's empathizes.
Believe in the me that believes in you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she goes with him, and it comes in handy because she's like a natural telepath, and she can hear the screams of all of the people on Sirius. And this causes her terrible pain and, like, will pop her brain like a grape. But she refuses to stop and helps him find the dragon, like, with her telepath power. And this is when they find Soya, like, on the planet and save him. And, like, everyone else is dead already on the planet. Like, there's some people who were coming back from trying to destroy the real, and, like, they were alive and attacking the dragon, but the people on the planet are all dead already, except Soya.
Yeah.
And the CG is so weird on the dragon during that battle.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not terrible. It's just an interesting way to animate it. It's not terrible. It's just
sure.
Yeah. So, I really highlighted some of the quotes in this back and forth because I thought they were very
the dragon
interesting.
Was interesting.
Yeah. So the dragon is like, I simply destroyed an evil race. I dispense justice. And then he says, there are no civilians in an evil race. And I kind of, I love the quotes in this anime because I feel like they're all very psychological and like philosophical. So do you believe, like, do you believe people share responsibility collectively when, like, their country, for example, does something wrong? Because that's kind of what he's saying.
Oh, that's a deep question.
Like, that's,
I don't think necessarily they do. No, like, I don't think you can hold an individual citizen responsible for like the acts of their country.
But you kind of can, especially when no
can.
one
in
does
times
anything.
Of war, people certainly do.
Yeah, like it's interesting, and I feel like that's really what that's trying to make you think of. And then,
but this also comes off like genocide, though, right? Like, they're all evil.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of like, it's a similar idea, right? Like, sometimes you're like, well, everyone in this country is evil. Like, everyone in Germany was evil during World War II, you know, which is not true. But at the same time, do they share some responsibility? It's debatable. Who knows? Some people say yes, some people say no. And then Sensei says, never commit another massacre in the name of justice. That is true evil. And so this is another interesting idea. Is revenge worse? Like, is a worse evil than the original deed? Like, is it better to forgive people or is it better to punish people? Which is more effective? Which is more right? I really do think this anime has a lot of interesting, deeper things in it.
Definitely asks interesting questions, yeah.
Yeah, and so then, I don't know, the telepaths like swarm the dragon at this point after they have this conversation, and we know what happens. Like, he later gets reborn on Earth, and we already went through that arc. So after the flashback ends, it cuts to Soya getting ready for school. And so we find out at this point, the Realians, none of them eat meat. They're all vegetarians. So the reason for this whole meat thing that we've been having this crisis over is revealed. Finally.
Yeah.
So
he's like, you don't eat meat, do you? And she's like, no, we don't.
I honestly think it's really admirable of Ginkgo that she holds nothing against him at all. Like, and I mean, I know that's like the nature of her race or whatever, but it's still admirable. He goes,
It is,
yeah,
for sure.
And he goes to school, and most of the students are gone, and a lot of people have moved because of what happened, like this disaster. And they may close the
Smart
school.
people.
I know, and I was like, well, at least they're realistic, because I feel like a lot of anime, like something crazy will happen, and then like the next day they'll be at school and they'll be like, yeah, everything's normal, and it's like, well, that wouldn't be what happened. Like people would move.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. It was realism. Realism. Okay, up on the roof. I know. Up on the roof of the school, Soya is just kind of like chilling, and he like later, and he is thinking about how he kind of killed someone, but it doesn't feel real to him. Oh God! Every time I say
He
real,
turned into sand. Do people usually turn into sand when they die? I don't know how to feel about this.
yeah, I know. But I do also feel like that's probably what it feels like when you kill someone. Like it probably doesn't feel like actual to you. You know what I mean?
Maybe not at first, at least.
Yeah. And so then this mysterious green-haired girl just like comes up to him, and like she gives him this amazing upskirt shot, and he totally sees everything. And like this first hypnotizes him in one way, like he is fixated, and then she actually hypnotizes him.
Yeah.
And
with her squiggly eyes.
Yes, and then she's like, "My name is Shiraishi, and you know me. I'm a new person at school." And he's like, "Your name is Shiraishi, and I know you." And so she's gonna like lead him off to God knows where. I'm assuming we'd never see him again or something. But they run into Nozo, and she's like, no, that doesn't work on me, because she tries hypnotizing Nozo and it doesn't work on her. And so Shiraishi's
which is
like,
very interesting.
I know. And then so Shiraishi's like, well, fuck, and like runs off. But all Soya can think throughout this is like, that girl was cute. And I'm like, well, I really think you just thought she was cute because you saw her underwear, but okay.
I like that he's honest, though. Like, yeah, she was kind of cute.
Yeah.
You know, be honest.
Mm-hmm. And then after, like, Nozo and Soya walk home, like, later in the evening, Nozo kind of walks off her own way, and then Soya sees what looks to him like his brother, who's, like, perched on these swings.
Yes.
And he says this weird thing. He's like, "We are the people of paradise. This form is simply how how you are perceiving me," or whatever. And he's like, "What?" And then the guy just leaves. Like, not much is explained. Yeah, it's weird. And then Shiraishi shows up again after that guy leaves with two other people, like the remaining humans from that sealing team from the last arc. And basically, it's kind of like, well, this isn't done. We're still going to try and seal humanity because we think it's the best way for us not to die. So, it's interesting. So, round 2.
And also, like, Soya has, like, also sort of, like, awakened to his own, like, psychic powers. Like, when he gets a little bit angry, like, when he's talking to the people of paradise guy who looks like his brother, like, he, like, bends some, like, metal bars at, like, this park.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, shit, like, he can use his power anytime. And it's kind of nuts. The only thing the people of paradise guy said was, like, we're the oldest race in the universe. And, like, something about how, like, they may have been around before the nebula or had something to do with it. I think they talked about that next episode, but that was kind of weird. So, yeah, episode 8 starts off with Benica. Like, so she's allied, like Kat was saying, with this, like, dog faction now, the Sealing faction. And she's trying to recruit Hideo, who they go by Torai in the show, like Torai-san, to, like, rebuild the Grand Paladin group. But he says, like, it's impossible. Like, I don't have my vial anymore of dust. And like, actually, even if I wanted it, Ginkgo stole it from her research lab like last week. And like, they show this scene where like she steals it from this like 7th story window of a research lab, and she's falling away from the building and she's like flickering. And it's a total nod to Ghost in the Shell, which I thought was kind of cool that they did that. And so importantly, though, Benica tells Hideo that, you know, the vials, they were just the key to unlocking our latent psychic powers, but they're not the actual source of our power at all. Like, you could use your power now. But he still doesn't want to join up with her. Nozomi tries to invite Soya on a date to the aquarium, but it's closed because the fish are super stressed out from all this crazy shit that has been happening, according to the owner of the aquarium anyway. He's like, the fish are stressed out, guys. Let's close the aquarium. So it turns out that Shiraishi, though, like the crazy girl who's like hypnotizing people, she's actually just taken a different form. She was Ryozoji's secretary, who we met previously, with like the ponytail haircut and the glasses. And she's like taking this schoolgirl form to try and like, you know, get in good with Soya. She's also obviously jealous of Nozomi's relationship with him and like wants to ruin their date. She's like stalking them, and she goes off to try to do that. Meanwhile, Generalissimo, the head of the dogs, shows up because he wants to know more about why Benica has agreed to join the Ceiling faction out of nowhere, since she like gave up her vial and she didn't want to fight earlier. And so they go, he's like, you know where we can chat about this really nice and easily? When we get naked at this onsen. He like snaps his fingers and they're instantly at an onsen, and like he, Benica, and Yosuke all get naked and start chatting.
Yay!
And, yeah, they fit in an onsen episode. They did it. So we learned that Benica's backstory is that she's a former police officer who got into the force because she had really admired this detective. And that detective ended up being shot by this young guy who was a criminal. He was like on the run from a robbery and got 3D backed into
printed a gun.
Yeah. He 3D printed a gun. This is true. Yeah. And like they interviewed the boy after he killed the detective that she admired, shot him. And he basically said, like, when I put my hands around a gun, it made me feel invincible. It was like it was a dream or something. And like
this part belongs in Happy Sugar Life. It's in the wrong show.
I mean, maybe, but it's like, I don't know. It kind of fits here as like a weird backstory. Other people who had talked about this kid basically said up to that point that like he was such a kind person up until this act, like they couldn't have seen him doing this. But a lot of people say that about a lot of people who kill people with guns in real life.
Yep.
So this felt like pretty rock solid to me. Benica saw Harumi lose control of her psychic powers when she became consumed by the power of that dragon, like a few episodes back. And so she realized that like the psychic powers, like there's no trigger to even have to pull, like with a gun. Like there's nothing separating her from using her psychic powers besides like the whims of her own heart, like to prevent her from losing control. And that's why she got afraid that something might happen to like her, like happened to her, like the kid who shot her detective. And so that's why she turned in her vial, gave up her powers, and quit Grand Paladin. But now that she knows the vial was just the key to unlock her power, she has joined the Ceiling faction because she's so afraid of what she might do or what other humans with powers might do if they lose control. And she feels like the only solution is that their powers have to be sealed away. So it's a really good explanation for why she has joined that faction, I think. Meanwhile, Shiraishi tries to drop in on Soya's date and uses her telepathy, which like still doesn't work on Nozomi. And she like pushes her breasts into Soya's arm, but he's like, they're illusionary breasts. Because like she's using an illusion to change her appearance, and like while her breasts appear to be pushing into his bicep, he actually feels their soft boobiness on his shoulder, which gives her away completely. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Because she's actually taller, obviously. So at this point, Benica shows up with the sealing device that Generalissimo gave her, which is like her on top of a pyramid, riding on top of like an alligator in the water. And it's, I like Generalissimo. He's like, man, these humans are really aggressive. Like, I give them a device and they instantly attack. But strangely, Shiraishi is the one who seems most intent on like convincing Soya to fight. Like when they all see this, but Soya is like, I don't want to fight. I'm done. I'm tired of all this. I defeated the dragon, and I've avenged my own planet. Like, why should I care about Earth? I care about my own planet and all my own friends who I never got to see again, and all my family I never got to say goodbye to. And he starts breaking down and crying over them because, like, he's lost everyone he ever knew.
Well, he's just now processing all of this. Like, he deserves to feel something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, Leo, you didn't like this scene, right?
I just felt it was like cheesy, and I was just like, I was sitting in my chair, and just I was just sitting here squirming around because I'm like, this is super uncomfortable. Let's move on.
No, you know what? There are much more annoying scenes in another anime that we're going to cover later. So I don't feel like that's fair of you to say.
I'm excited.
But
I only got one show.
Point,
I wonder.
I know there's only one more show we're covering. There's only one more crying scene I can think of. So at this point,
and I make fun of that. Don't get me wrong.
So since he won't fight, like Nozomi steps in and decides, like, hey, it's my turn to protect Soya. He protected my town. I'm going to pretend him, even if it just means like I'm going to grab his hand and run away with him. But luckily, before that even happens, Torai just shows up and sees that Soya doesn't want to fight anymore, and he's like, don't worry, I'll fight. I'll take this burden on. And so he goes and uses his powers, flies out to meet Benica, and like Soya's like looking on. He's basically like, yeah, this is fine. I'll let the Earthlings figure out what they want to do with their own planet. And Ginkgo, who's like a pacifist, mostly agrees with him, actually, because that's basically her philosophy, except that the involvement of these sealing devices is not something that the Earthlings are responsible for. So she feels like it's okay to get involved because, obviously the sealing faction is messing with them on the other side. And then the People of Paradise guy, in the form of Soya's brother, shows up again, and only Soya can see him, by the way. And Ginkgo and Sensei tell Soya, like, once like they figure out he's talking to this guy, that like he's beyond just being an old race, that they've evolved into this higher dimension, and they have something to do with forming the Nebula faction in the first place, like the evolution of Peace faction. So Torai ends up defeating Benica because she's reluctant to use her full power against him, because she sees in him the same goodness that she saw in the detective that she admired growing up. So she can't bring herself to like kill him or just even defeat him. And in the end, the People of Paradise tell Soya, like, you only banished the dragon, but you didn't kill him. He's like hiding on the dark side of the moon, and we need you to defeat it when it returns. And so that's like the smoking gun at this point, basically. So yeah,
I don't know how I
Lots
like
of
that
philosophy in these two episodes.
Yeah, I like the philosophy.
Yeah, I don't know if I
don't
that
like
either.
the idea that they're just going to repeat the dragon thing again. But I think the idea of the 3D gun is interesting, because if you think about it, it kind of represents the idea of like stealing a dangerous power or giving it to people, or can you seal it, very well. And no matter where you really fall on the whole 3D gun debate, you have to admit it's an interesting metaphor. So
yeah, I'd like to say that the show says a homemade gun. I just said 3D printing because it's just a current,
well, yeah,
thing that's kind of going on.
But you have to.
That's a fair way to interpret that.
Yeah, I think it is. But it's. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah.
No.
All right. Then we've got Attack on Titan Season 3.
Attack on Titan.
Episode 7.
I can't even say it in your fucking accent. I can only say it in my hick accent. So, go ahead, Bcom.
Well, Leo's got this first episode.
Called
Wish.
It's called Wish. I wish Eren would fucking shut the fuck up.
I wish he'd stop being such a fucking pussy and suck it up and go do what he has to do.
Stop being a candy ass.
He's not a candy ass. He's not hot. Bitch. He's not hot enough to be a candy ass. He's just a little baby.
I don't know. Have you seen his abs lately?
Geez. So the show starts, and Rod is obviously planning to turn his story into a Titan and have her eat Eren to get his powers. The gang bursts open the doors and they throw in some barrels that cause a smoke screen, and then the fighting begins. The smoke screen works well because the bad guys' guns don't give them the range advantage anymore since they can't see them, and they also have to reload once they fire each of their guns. So that's also an extra time to attack them.
I also just want to say the background music during the first part of this episode I really liked. Like, the fight starts with those like wooden drums like falling down the stairs, and there's like these bongo drums going along with it that kind of like accompany that like movement, and then that all builds into this really cool track. But also, as the fight continues on, this like rap track starts coming in, and I was like, it's not the best rap I've ever heard. It's like, I don't know about this one, guys, but yeah.
And also, one other thing that works for this disadvantage is the lines they shoot, to move around. They're fired from their guns, and that leaves their backsides completely open, and wherever their gun's aimed is where they're going to go.
Did you hear that, Cat? Their backsides are completely open.
Don't excite her. Jesus. Let's finish the podcast first. Sasha is also providing support from the side with her bow and arrow, and it's pretty cool. And it's going very well for them until Kenny shows up and makes things more difficult. But him and Levi trade some blows, and Levi manages to injure Kenny enough that he retreats. Hange eventually takes one of like the lines that they shoot and right into the shoulder, and it like slams her into a column, and she like falls down to the ground, and it looks pretty bad. And then that's when the bad guy uses the opportunity to fall back to their last line of defense, and then they also drop a net over like the opening to help prevent them from being pursued.
I'm gonna say when Hange got thrown into that pillar of ice and she landed on her neck and was lying lifelessly on the floor, I held my hand up to the screen of my computer like Neo in the Matrix, and I was like, I am altering the code. This I do not believe this is happening right now. You are not killing Hange off of this fucking show, Wit Studio. It is not happening. So we'll see if that has any effects.
All right, now we get a history lesson. Ooh, yeah. The walls were built long ago by certain Titan, and it also made the cavern they are in. This power has been in the Reese bloodlines for generations until Eren's father stole it. Frida Reese also had to eat her uncle to gain these powers, which is kind of crazy. This is when Kenny interrupts the history lesson and starts threatening Rod because I don't think something got completely translated here because I was a little lost.
So all I got out of that was that like Kenny clearly seemed to want to think he could get Eren's power for himself.
Right. I got that a little bit.
Yeah, but that beyond that, I couldn't tell exactly what else he wanted it to use it for.
I think Kenny was just tired of dealing with the Rice family and was kind of like,
yeah, probably.
I'm gonna like. I think he really cared about the uncle because there's like some interesting things where like, don't you talk about. What's the uncle's name?
Whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Right.
So yes. I feel like he had a good relationship with the uncle, and then they killed off the uncle, and Kenny was like, I'm kind of done with this fucking family. And I think Rod kind of felt that and was like, well, I'm going to try and manipulate him into thinking he can double cross us, but he can't really double cross us. And Kenny has just figured this out. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, and only the Reese bloodline can actually use this power to its full extent.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, for whatever reason. But then, like, Historia defends her father, and Kenny relents, but with a condition of his own. He releases Eren so that the two will have to fight it out. And then also, Historia has to drink the spinal fluid of Eren to actually gain the powers. Like, Rod makes a point of putting this out there. But then Eren won't transform because he feels indebted by what his father did to Frida and all the people that had died, and likely wouldn't have if the powers had stayed in the Reese family, where they could have possibly done some good.
Eren starts to get all emo at this point.
It's such a sudden shift to like just completely accepting like I should die because of what my father did, and like maybe it's because he saw that flashback of imagery and it like affected him greatly. Like I'm gonna give him that, but still it felt like weirdly submissive to this.
It irritated the fuck out of me. I just got really pissed off.
I was right there with you, Kat. I was just like, God damn it. But Historia is moved by his words and starts asking the real questions. Why in all of those hundreds of years with the power to control Titans had they not gotten rid of them? Thank you.
Great question. I was so happy when she asked that question.
Yes.
My girl Historia finally asking the questions.
Yeah, Rod's explanation is that the first Reese King only knows that answer, and she will also get back the memories of why. And also, there's this one scene where he's talking about him and his brother, the uncle that Frida had to eat. They were arguing with their...
Uri is his name or something? Uri? Something like that.
They were arguing with their father of why he doesn't do this, and he says, I can't tell you. And then when his brother gets that power, he does the same thing. He's like, no, I won't control these Titans. So there's some secret or something they know that is preventing them from stopping all these Titans.
Also, everyone in that family except Historia has those creepy fucking eyes. I don't know what the hell is wrong with their eyes. It's creepy.
It's anime. They just love their eyes.
No, it's very specific to their family. They have eyes that are like fucking big, but not in a like, oh, they're pretty way. In a like, oh, that's fucking creepy.
They're like this crazed, intense look. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, then Historia remembers some words from Ymir telling her to live a life she is proud of.
Hell yeah.
And breaks a syringe on the floor, and that was great. Love that callback.
The music in that moment is like top 10 anime betrayals. Like she swats the syringe out of his hand. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be memes to high heaven.
Yeah. She then like throws Rod, and he hits the ground, and his back like cracks, and he's like, ugh! And like then Historia races up to Eren and frees him, and Rod has like become so desperate that like he crawls on the floor over to the broken syringe and like licks it up, and he starts transforming into a Titan. I love my final note. Eren is also fucking whining like a fucking baby this whole fucking time. I'm just like I wrote this, and then like I just had to put that in there because it's like, Jesus, Eren, shut the fuck up.
I know. Pissed me off so bad.
He's like, please kill me.
Kill me, please.
I'm almost like, Historia, please do kill him.
I know. I got so pissed off.
Honestly, at a certain point, I was thinking that too. I was like, Historia, you could be the main character of this series. Wouldn't be so bad.
Why don't you just hit him really hard until he stops being such a baby? Actually, I start out the next episode calling him a bitch baby because I'm just done. Like at the beginning, they like kind of rewind and they're like, "Oh, Rod is licking this shit off the floor," and like the cavern is collapsing, and and like all the gang is like dragging Eren out of this harness thing, and the whole time Eren's like, I should die. And he's crying. And
I want to say, when we did the previews, I did say that I can't wait for this season of Attack on Titan so I can make fun of Eren again. But this has gone too far. I'm just like,
he just turns full emo. And I'm like, you know what? Suck it up. It is go time. This is crisis moment. You don't get to whine and bitch when it's crisis time. That's some shit you do.
And that's also what his friends say, too.
I know.
His friends are like, suck it up, you idiot.
But that's some shit.
We've been through worse shit.
If you want to curl into a ball and cry about your problems, that's some shit you do by yourself later in your room. Not right now, when the cavern is caving in on you, and everyone's like, Eren, we're gonna die. Help. Like, that's not what you do. Pissed me off really bad. But yeah, they're like, Eren, you need to do something and stop being a fucking bitch baby. And it's amazing to me how they must always remind him of this. Like, always. He can never figure it out for himself that he needs to like function as a human being. So he decides, well, okay, I'll try to function as a human being. He looks over, there's a jar, and he eats it. And like, he says armor. It looks like that fluid that...
It's like labeled.
I guess. It looks like that
it's labeled
fluid
armor
that Rod ate to me. I don't really understand the difference. They don't really explain it that well. The up close of him eating this can is ridiculous, though. I encourage you to go back and just like slow motion those like 5 seconds, because it's a pretty ridiculous looking shot. Like his face and everything.
I remember thinking, oh, that's gotta hurt, but he's immediately transforming into a Titan, so it's just like an extremely brief moment. So
Yeah.
I like just how he sees like a can that says like armor on it. He's like, I should eat that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of dumb. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think something didn't get taken from the manga and put in, like they had to skip it or for whatever reason, but
Could be,
whatever.
yeah.
I just rolled with it.
Yeah, I kind of figured like, well, there's something going on here that I don't really understand, but whatever. But yeah, so I don't know. So then they all get under Eren because they're like, oh, well, he's really big because he turns into the armor Titan. And like the cavern is collapsing. They all manage to like survive because they're under him. And the other people who don't get under Eren manage to get Hanj out. So Bcom, your fucking weird Matrix trick worked, I guess, because she lived. Good.
You bet it did. I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was literally so relieved. Like, she's become like basically my favorite character.
She's pretty awesome.
So I was glad.
She proves her worth like in just a second too. And then apparently they like revealed that the whole cavern was made of hardened Titan juice or whatever the fuck. And like Levi's like, we could save Wall Maria with this. And I'm like, yeah, but like, is there more of that juice? Because like, I don't think so. So, like, I don't know how that helps you, because Eren still doesn't know how to do it by himself. He needs, like, the Titan Viagra to help him. So, without it, you're kind of fucked.
If your wall lasts longer than 300 years, please contact the nearest doctor.
Okay, so, and then Hanj at this point comes up, and she's so awesome. She just says, like, what everyone was thinking. Like she's like the audience's voice at this moment, where she's just like, "Stop being a bitch, baby," and like yells at Eren, and I'm like, "Yes, thank you, Hanj." And go ahead.
That's one of the reasons I love Sasha so much, is because she's like, she's a realist, and I love her fucking lines.
Yeah, well, then later on, there's
so
another like line in just a few minutes that's very similar to what Hanj says, where it like just kind of addresses what the crowd is saying. I'll get to that in a minute. But like, so then there's like a kind of, they're all kind of hanging out outside this collapsed cavern, and like there's like a close up on Rod at like he's now the Titan, and he's like crawling along the ground as everyone just sort of like chills, and they're like, oh, he's crawling along the ground, and like he looks like a fucking weirdo because his like face is just rubbing in the dirt, and like the CG on the Titan is not good. Like, surprisingly,
there's a couple things about him. He's like, what they say, he's like even way bigger than the Colossal Titan. And then like there's a reason I point out in the last episode that like he fucking broke his back or something, because that like translated over to his Titan.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, why are they drawing him like this? It's so dumb. And then they talked about how he's headed towards Orvu district, and they know this. And I tried to look up like, why would they know this? And I couldn't find anything. At this point,
Erwin just seems to have a hunch.
Yeah. And then at this point, Eren just goes back to his emo form. Like, Hanj is like bitch slapping. It doesn't last very long. He goes back to emo Eren and is like, oh, someone eat me, please, because I can't stand the will to live. And, Arwen has to kind of talk him out of it by like being like, logic says that this is a bad idea because Rod is a crazy asshole who can't be trusted. And why would you do that? So, and they're like, yeah, this seems right. This seems like a valid thing. And then Arwen also argues that Eren's dad must have killed the Rice family for a reason. And it, it might be that.
Yeah, because they had this power. Why were they not eliminating the Titans? And he was trying to, make him. So now he looks more like a good guy again.
Yeah, exactly.
And this, I loved it because then they brought the basement up again.
Yes.
And it's been completely forgotten. And Sasha's like, she like calls out the show because the basement's going to be relevant again. And I just fucking started laughing.
She's like, don't tell me that basement thing was actually a thing.
Right? You're just like, thank you.
Oh, so something I'm not sure if you guys said earlier is that like Rod Rice like tells them that, or he tells Historia like, I cannot become the Titan, Historia. Like it has to be you. And I wonder if that has something to do with why he has like this ridiculously weird, humongous Titan form. Maybe there's like a curse on the males in the Rice family when they take on this burden, and that's why they made Frida the Titan before.
No, it's
before
because
Frida
he's
were men,
a
though.
pussy.
I know, but maybe something went wrong with them that he hasn't really revealed.
Well, he didn't,
I don't know.
Okay, two things. His back was broken, and second, he didn't inject it. He just licked it up.
No, it's
That's
because
true.
he's a
Yeah.
jerk. It's because he's a jerk and didn't want to have to deal with it.
That's what Historia concludes. She's like, you just want to foist this upon me.
Yes.
And like, you're just getting out of it. That's all you're doing.
Yes.
So it's possible. Yeah.
I would assume it's explained in the manga. So if we got some manga listeners, let us know who's right. It's probably me.
But don't spoil
fucking
us.
Leo.
As long as it's not Cat.
Spoil Leo.
Yeah.
Not us.
Tell me I'm right, please. He probably okay. So I don't know. So like I think probably, and Arwen argues this as well, that Eren's dad probably thought that Eren could figure out how to control the power with the help from whatever's in the basement, as Sasha cheekily reminds us is a thing.
I love it.
I know. And probably he won't be under like the first king's will, and so he can get everyone away from the Titans and like solve this whole fucking debacle. Oh, and as an afterthought, once all this is over, Historia is going to be queen. And like, I love the way Levi is just like, hey, you're going to be queen, okay? And she's like, well, I guess I'm going to be queen. And then as the episode is ending, they're talking about their plan on how to deal with Rod, the weird ass Titan, and they're like, "Whoa, how are we going to evacuate the town?" And they decide they're like, "Oh, well, we're not going to evacuate the town," and they're like, "What?" And that's the end of that episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see what happens next week.
I assume like the reason they're not evacuating is it has something to do with Erwin's hunch for like why Rod Rice is heading there in the first place. Like there must be a reason. Otherwise, it's kind of ludicrous not to evacuate. Unless they want to like show that like, no, we can hold this Titan off and like give the people hope, and like maybe that will help in creating Historia as like a queen who is going to be supported.
Well, you say he must have a reason, but obviously because he makes this a decision. But what do you think that reason is? I don't really know.
I don't know. It could be like a number of different things. I'm not sure why Rice is heading for that area specifically either. I don't know. It might be something I should know. I'm not sure. But I also liked Mikasa. Like she had like a little aside to Historia when she's like going to become a queen. She's like, you know, when you're queen, you can punch that little runt Levi in the face.
Oh, I know.
Oh, that reminded me of when like Eren was like fucking crying his eyes out, being a little bitch. That, like even in that scene, to me, it looked like Mikasa's giving him a look like, "Come on, dude!" Like,
you know
he's
it's
his
bad.
biggest supporter.
You know it's bad when Mikasa's like, "I'm kind of done with you today." Like.
One of the other parts of the episode that really cracked me up is Armin and Moblit are carrying Hanj away from the church, and like the Titan is like arising out of the ground, and like so like the ground is breaking up, but like the world's smallest crack opens up in front of them.
All right, it's a foot,
and they just like step over it,
and they're carrying a body, so it's going to take a little strength and coordination. Come on.
It was so small. It's just like, this isn't really a thing, guys. Like,
oh my god,
I don't know. It's pretty funny. Oh man, as much as Eren was a stupid bitch, I really liked these two episodes a lot because we got so much more backstory. Like they just keep dumping the backstory on us, and it's very exciting.
They're heaping that stuff on there. Hopefully, it keeps going as well as it's been going. I've enjoyed this season so far.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this season's been amazing.
All right, well, I think that wraps us up. So, Leo, why don't you take us out?
All you listeners, thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube or to our podcast feed on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can also follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates on new podcasts as well. Join our Discord and all the crazy shenanigans that go down there. And with that, we'll see you all next time.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.